One Piece Supreme Control, Chapter 841-860. Chapter 841 Drive Anger. Boom. Dark clouds unknowingly shrouded the sky above this desert, and the sturdy electric longhairs wandered endlessly, emitting dull roars. Right below it, a golden beam of light shot straight into the sky, and half of the sky that shone was bright white. And under this golden light, a figure surrounded by thunder and lightning, with a cold face, like a predator, was standing there. Its arms are thick, and the two strong muscles in the mouth are exposed, as solid as granite. He is not tall, but the sense of power faintly conveyed in his body at this moment makes the void feel heavy. Crackling. The violent thunder and lightning flickered on Sun Wuhan's body, making him like the king of thunder and lightning, and his momentum was extremely amazing. Strong. Even Yang Qing had to sigh when he saw Sun Wufan in this state. Different from Vegeta's virtual transformation, Sun Gohan at this moment has almost mastered the state of the full power of Super Tournament 1 after training, and can exert the power of Super Tournament 2 more strongly. Therefore, in the feeling he gives at the moment, there is a kind of thick and steady momentum, not vain. Uncle Qing, I have only just discovered the power of mine, and I can't transform at will. But, in my opinion, he is already my most powerful force. Sun Wufan's voice also seemed a little low at this time. His originally mild child face now has a maturity that does not match his age. It's good, but it's not enough. Yang Qing nodded and commented. It's still a long way from Xilu. That's right, Sun Gohan's Super Tournament 2 state is already very strong, but he still can't compare to Xilu. Xilu is such a changeable and strong person. He wins by himself, but it does not mean that others can also win. Now, attack me. Seeing him silently, Yang Qing transformed into Chaosai 1. His body was not aura, nor was the golden flame burning, which made him look bland. Sun Wufan nodded without hesitation, but with a flash, he was already in front of Yang Qing. Soon. With a sigh in his heart, Yang Qing's head quickly avoided. PFF'd. There was a sound of being pierced in the air. Sun Wufan's powerful punch actually cut through the air of nothingness. When it passed by, the powerful force formed a strong wind blade, and it moved towards Yang Qing. Attacked head-on. Scary. Yang Qing's figure flashed, dodging the wind blade. The wind blade pierced through the void and stabbed the desert, cutting the desert into a few huge holes. When he missed a hit, Sun Wuhan was not discouraged. He pursued again with a calm expression, and threw a punch again. This punch was stronger and faster. Yang Qing blocked with a fist, and the two fists collided fiercely in the next second, making a bang. The ground burst, and the two took a step back. Very good. Let's fight first. Stepping forward, Yang Qing launched an attack. At this moment, the cells in his whole body were boiling, the blood was surging, and the infinitely powerful force was surging continuously towards the whole body. In just a moment, it had reached his limbs, and then through his fists and feet, it was transmitted again, heavy and heavy. The bombardment of Sun Gohan's body. The latter is also extremely powerful, and its defensive ability is even more terrifying, but under Yang Qing's sudden attack, he can only keep retreating. Bang 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 bang. Yang Qing punched and punched Sun Wufan's arms, leaving a bang. Under this wind-like attack, Sun Wufan avoided its edge and was just defensive. Finally, Sun Gohan found the opportunity, twisted his body, and hit his elbows sideways. Bang! This elbow hit Yang Qing's face, the latter's figure froze, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Ha ha, good. Being able to hit him already represents how powerful Sun Wuhan is at the moment. If the anger in his body is drawn out and this power is taken to a higher level, then, is it possible to force himself to transform into Super Saiyan 2? As soon as he stepped on the footsteps, the violent power immediately exploded in Yang Qing's body. Without hesitation, Yang Qing raised his hand and gave Sun Wufan a punch. Bang! This punch hit Sun Wufan's face so hard that it also raised his head. Their eyes shrank, and the two of them started a close hand-to-hand fight. At this moment, there are no more tricks. Fist to flesh, any of their punches can hit each other. It's not that they can't dodge, but the distance between the two is already very close. After the first punch, the body stiffened, making it difficult for them to step back. If you retreat or dodge rashly, you will usher in a more violent attack from the opponent. At that point, you'll fall back into an even bigger disadvantage. A dull voice came from the two of them fighting. Gradually, the speed of their heavy punches slowed down. In the end, they all closed their fists. Uncle Ching, I still can't beat you. The voice was blurred. Son Gohan gritted his teeth and said. At this moment, his nose is blue and his face is swollen, the sides of his face are swollen high, and the eyebrows and eyes are all bruised. Ha, you are already very good, I played very well. Yang Qing laughed, there were not many scars on his body. Although Son Gohan's power is strong. This chapter is not over, click on the next page to continue reading. But there is still some distance to cause damage to him. You're cool, but hurts. Sun Wufan took a breath and said painfully. Just help you recover. You played with my uncle, and my uncle won't treat you badly. Yang Qing smiled and patted Gohan on the shoulder. Afterwards, a golden light flashed on his body, gathering towards Sun Wuhan's whole body, and in an instant, he wrapped the latter. Immediately after 3 breaths, the golden light disappeared, revealing the fully restored Son Gohan. I'm fine. Seeing that he had suddenly returned to normal, as if he had eaten fairy beans, Sun Wufan said in surprise. Hee, don't worry about this, then, next, you need to get angry. After smiling, Yang Qing's expression became serious. How powerful is Sun Wufan's power after his anger? Can he control this power and prevent himself from falling into a rage? Yang Qing had no way of confirming this. Get ready, Gohan. Next, I will remind you of the most angry scene in your mind and make you enter this state. Remember, you must uphold your heart and keep your kindness. Don't be driven by anger and become an angry puppet. It's about driving anger and making it work for you. Driven anger. Gohan muttered. Chapter 842 I see, Uncle Ching, come on. After a pause, Sun Wufan said seriously. I'm ready. Very well, then, here it is. Yang Qing took a deep look at Sun Wufan, put the index finger and middle finger of his right hand together, and then gently pressed it on Sun Wufan's eyebrow. For a moment, Sun Gohan's whole body trembled. Divine power swept Sun Wufan's mind, and within a 10 millionth of a second, all the things that made him most angry, desperate, and fearful were reflected in front of Yang Qing's eyes. Just a random wave, Yang Qing changed it and integrated it into all the scenes that happened in the future time and space. In Sun Wufan's consciousness, when he opened his eyes again, he couldn't help but froze for a moment, looking a little confused. Here, where is it? As far as the eye can see, there are ruins that can't be seen. High-rise buildings collapse. On the ground, among the ruins, countless human corpses are lying there. Here, it is like a hell on earth, with broken limbs everywhere. He tried to take a few steps forward to disperse his sense of breath, but what made his face ugly was that he didn't sense the existence of a person. Along the way, Son Gohan quickly traveled throughout the city. What made him depressed was that the whole city was in ruins, and there were human corpses everywhere. The tragic feeling made him want to vomit, and at the same time, there was a monstrous anger in his heart. Who the hell did it? It's maddening. Don't let me catch you. He rose into the sky. Looking down from a high altitude, he saw more than a dozen places in the city were full of large pits and mottled, obviously caused by the shock wave of the explosion. The current state of the city was deliberately destroyed by people with a heart. For the kind-hearted Sun Wuhan, this matter is completely unimaginable, that someone would be so cruel and callous to destroy a city and kill all the human beings in the city. This made him clench his fists even more, and his eyes turned red. Unspeakable anger filled his heart, making him uncomfortable. He lowered his head and glanced again, but did not find any living person in the city. With a flick of his body, he quickly flew in another direction. After half an hour, his figure suddenly froze, his head turned quickly, and he looked towards the south. There, he felt an incomparably powerful aura that was erupting. There's a fight there. Without hesitation, Sun Wuhan rose into the sky, increased his speed to the limit, and charged towards the south. His speed was astonishingly fast, and in less than 10 seconds, he had already seen the two people who were fighting. One of them, with golden light flickering all over his body, was surging with an incomparably powerful aura. He was wearing an orange-red martial arts uniform, and his aura was faintly familiar to him. The other person, just seeing it, made his pupils shrink. Siruru. That figure floating in the air with a cold and indifferent face is Xilu. Then what is the other figure? With a hint of doubt, Sun Gohan once again stood opposite Xilu. Dad. The moment he saw it clearly, Sun Gohan cried out in shock. The person who had a huge breath, but was obviously vain, and was seriously injured was his father, Sun Wukong. At this moment, Sun Wukong, his face is pale, his forehead is sweating, and the weak and the powerful are mixed together, which seems very contradictory. Such a monkey king is exactly the scene when Yang Qing extracted the future world before he died. A dazzling scene broke out, a short-lived spectacular. Ah! With a roar, Sun Wukong's aura became stronger. He roared and rushed to Xilu. It's useless, you're too weak. Xilu sneered, facing the rushing Sun Wukong, just waved his elbow. Bang! The Sun Wukong, who came from the impact, was only hit by Xilu, and he was hit hard, hitting the ground and making a loud noise. And with this blow, Sun Wukong spurted out blood from his mouth, and his face was extremely pale. Dad! Sun Wufan roared anxiously, flew up, and was about to rush over to stop it. But Xilu was faster. He was already in the sky above Sun Wukong at this moment. Without hesitation, he stepped on it indifferently. Die, Sun Wukong! Boom! This foot gathered a powerful force and stepped on Sun Wukong's body ruthlessly. Crack! The sound of broken bones and joints sounded, and blood flowed out of Sun Wukong's mouth like no money. The whole person trembled and lost his breath. Dad! Sun Gohan let out an incomparably angry cry and roar, and the violent aura of his dashing figure instantly increased. Boom! In just an instant, he completed the transformation of Super Tournament 2, the fine electric current flowed, and the violent breath madly passed out. Finally, Sun Gohan came behind Xilu, and he threw a punch. However, something shocking happened to him. This punch actually passed through Xilu's body, as if Xilu was transparent. No, I am transparent. Sun Gohan discovered the fact that he is transparent in this world. His anger, transformation, Xilu did not react at all. Another one, hee. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. The voice of Xilu came from his ear, and Sun Wufan was stunned and looked into the distance. A golden breath came quickly, and soon, the face of the person who came was revealed, so that Sun Wuhan could see clearly. Uncle Vegeta. The person who came was Vegeta. Not far behind him, there are several figures. It is Kaylin, Bai K, Tianjin Fan, Yamcha and others. They're all here. They're all here for death. With a sneer, Xilu muttered to himself, and then a cold light appeared in his eyes. That icy killing intent, Sun Wufan stood in front of him, could clearly perceive it. No, don't come here, you guys don't come here. He yelled anxiously at Vegeta and the others, but the other party seemed to be completely inaudible, and in just a blink of an eye, he had come to the opposite side of Saru. Kakarot, Goku. Everyone was angry when they saw Sun Wukong die. The next scene made Sun Gohan almost lose his ability to think. Dead, all dead. Vegeta, Keelan, Uncle Pick, and Tianjin Fan were all brutally killed by Saru, and all died in front of Sun Gohan's eyes. The blood gathered and flowed into a small river, exuding the smell of blood. Next, it's time to destroy the planet. At this time, Xilu's icy voice entered Sun Wufan's ears again. Suddenly, Sun Wufan raised his head, his eyes were flushed, and his face became extremely hideous. Chapter 843 Angry Gohan. The violent aura surged wildly, and dense small lightning, crackling, surrounded his body, and his body shape became extremely harmonious and perfect at this moment. Just at first glance, it gives people a very burly and robust feeling. It is a kind of strength that is quite eye-catching. Although Sun Wufan is still young at this moment, and his figure has not grown up to his peak, but all parts of his body have perfectly matched a kind of secret proportion. Strong and great. Ah! His vision was blurred, and the mad anger filled Sun Wuhan's heart, causing him to completely fall into a frenzy at this moment. Terrible power appeared continuously from the depths of his body, and quickly rushed to his whole body. At this moment, he understood the powerful hidden power Qing said, but at this moment, Sun Wuhan was also swayed by anger. He wanted to destroy everything in front of him. A huge desire for destruction, hope, and a ferocious desire for destruction swept his mind, making him crazy at this moment, but terrifying. Kill, kill, kill. I'm going to kill you. Roaring in a low voice, his red eyes made Sun Wuhan look like a god of death in the Asura hell at this moment. He stepped out abruptly, punching hard. Surprisingly, with this punch, he actually hit the indifferent and arrogant Xilu. Xilu was stunned at this time, as if he couldn't sense where the attack came from. Boom! Under this punch, his body flew out directly, knocking down 18 high-rise buildings in a row, and just hit the ground heavily, flattening a large area of the ground. Who is it? Xilu shouted in shock. He was afraid, the power of that punch was beyond his power, and he was seriously injured in an instant. The next second, in front of him, the angry Sun Gohan appeared, and the huge power surging around him collapsed the void, and the shocked Xilu became frightened. Who are you? Without a response, the mad Sun Gohan was completely dominated by anger. He stepped out with one foot, and the terrifying speed brought out a gust of wind. Under the diffused lightning, it had come to Xilu's eyes. Then, a punch hits hard. Boom! This punch exploded with extremely terrifying energy, and it seemed to emit a brilliant light. The direct hit by Xilu bent over and vomited, his eyeballs would burst out, and blood spurted out from his mouth. Who are you? Sirius was terrified, and this guy who looked like a child in front of him was not an opponent at all. Die! Like a low roar, it came from Sun Wufan's mouth, and the faint madness in his voice actually made such an evil person like Xilu feel cold. Crack! Sun Wufan's figure suddenly disappeared, and when he reappeared the next moment, he had already kicked his stomach fiercely. Immediately afterwards, Xilu felt a terrifying pain strike instantly, making him want to shout, but he couldn't say it, because he was horrified to see that his body was actually broken in two. No, no! Sirius became frightened and begged for mercy loudly. His body was broken in two and still falling in the air at the moment, but he was not dead yet. The powerful vitality allows him to survive despite his physical disability. This is the ability that Frieza and Bic gave him. But his heart was trembling and shaking, and the person in front of him was too powerful, giving him a kind of horror from the soul. Sun Wuhan, who was in anger, had already been controlled by the anger, and naturally ignored Xilu's fear. He leaned on his side and stretched out and out with one hand. In the blink of an eye, the light blue light had already begun to flicker, but in less than a breath, the originally small qigong wave suddenly expanded to the size of a person, surging with strong energy fluctuations. Om! The air seemed to be scorched by the high temperature brought by the high heat, and the void began to distort. This terrifying qigong wave suddenly rushed to Xilu's eyes. No! Fear made Sirius scream instinctively, but it was useless. It was only in a matter of seconds that this terrifying qigong wave swelled again, directly engulfing Xilu's body, and then the trend continued unabated, and it blasted tens of thousands of meters forward again, before a loud explosion. Furious, Sun Gohan has completely stopped thinking about the existence of planets or the existence of living beings. His attack was full of madness and destruction. This Qigong exploded, causing the flames to burn in the sky, and nearly 1/10 of the earth was blown out of a deep pit. The terrifying plate movement caused the underground magma to flow to the ground, followed by the volcanic eruption. The climate changed rapidly, the atmosphere ruptured, and the earth began to split and collapse at this moment. Dead, die, die. Kill you, kill you. However, Sun Gohan, who was controlled by anger, still did not wake up. Suddenly, the world in front of him shattered, and the flames that rushed towards him disappeared immediately. Sun Gohan's consciousness fell into darkness, but his body did not stop moving. In the real world, Yang Qing's expression became a little dignified. 4 or 5 minutes have passed since he clicked the moment between Sun Wufan's eyebrows, and then now. The aura of the young man in front of him seemed to be going berserk from the very beginning, completely uncontrollable. He was angry, it was. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Real anger. It's a horrible smell. Next, in the virtual world of thought, everything was as real, which made Gohan completely explode. Boom. The terrifying aura rushed straight into the sky unscrupulously, and a scorching golden flame suddenly erupted, and Sun Wuhan's body flashed dense lightning. Super Saiyan 2. Sun Wuhan completed this process at an almost terrifying speed, but then, the momentum of this Super Tournament 2 was still rising like crazy. His potential has been drawn out. Let me see what a terrible potential this is. Yang Qing's eyes narrowed, and he transformed himself into a Super Saiyan Stage 2. He faintly felt that the power that Sun Gohan was about to explode would be extremely terrifying, enough for him to use his full strength at this stage to deal with it seriously. Om. The void began to tremble, Sun Wufan's eyes were still closed, and his body began to change. The originally thin body swelled a little at this moment. But this expansion is not awkward, on the contrary, it is a perfect harmony, which makes people feel happy and full of visual impact. Chapter 844 The Power of Terror. Muscles that are not hypertrophy, but not weak, look solid and powerful, and with the height of Sun Wuhan at the moment, it gives people a strange impact, which is very attractive. His body was surrounded by shimmering thunder and lightning, and the huge aura was constantly fluctuating. The momentum is still growing. What a terrible potential. Yang Qing observed carefully, his fists clenched slightly. At this moment, the power that erupted in Sun Wufan's body was already terrifying. It hasn't stopped, the majestic aura of power in Sun Wufan's body is still growing. This power is already approaching the limit that Yang Qing himself has reached at the Super Saiyan 2 stage at the moment. This shocked Yang Qing, but also felt very happy. Sure enough, his body contains incomparably terrifying power. He doesn't know if this power has reached the level that erupted during the battle with Xilu in the original book, but in his senses, this power is already extremely powerful, making him tremble, making him excited to start the battle immediately. Field. However, the growth of this power has not stopped. Buzz. The void made a tremor humming, and under this power, everyone seemed to be afraid. He is still growing, as if there is no end. This rising aura actually made Yang Qing feel a sense of horror in his heart. It really shocked me. The bloodline after the union of humans and Saiyans is really terrifying. Surprised, Yang Qing quietly adjusted his strength to the limit of Super Saiyan Stage 2. With his raw power at the moment, it can be said to be very terrifying. Boom. Finally, Sun Gohan seemed to have reached a critical point, and the ground shook with a terrifying shudder, and began to fall apart. At this moment, a pair of red scorpions reflected in Yang Qing's eyes. This is. For a moment, Yang Qing felt the anger and destruction contained in these eyes. Controlled and driven by anger. In the blink of an eye, Yang Qing already understood. At this moment, Sun Wuhan is irrational, almost relying on anger and driving his own instincts to fight. The moment Sun Wufan opened his eyes, he saw Yang Qing in his eyes. The desire for destruction in his heart burst out instantly, and he let out a low roar almost like a beast, and disappeared immediately. Who, Tilda? This crazy and violent aura made even Yang Qing startled and shocked by it. At this moment, Yang Qing had a dazzling confusion, which was caused by the ferocious aura too terrifying. Even the gods couldn't bear such a demonic breath. Normally, Sun Gohan is kind and well-behaved, but when the rationality in his heart disappeared and he was driven and controlled by anger, with his terrifying potential, Saiyan instinct turned into a creature that was even more terrifying than a demon. Boom! Suddenly, the violent force had bombarded Yang Qing's body, and in just an instant, his body had already flown out. So strong. The angry Sun Gohan has already unleashed his most powerful potential, and Sun Gohan, who guided the almost infinite potential, has become so strong that it terrifies the gods. Silently wiped the blood from the corners of his mouth, Yang Qing's eyes became serious. At this moment, the power of Sun Wufan's explosion was almost the same as his, and even he faintly felt that under this anger, the anger was burning, and the former's strength was still expanding. Saiyan blood, instinct, gives Sun Gohan almost unlimited energy. The breath on his body burst out again, and Yang Qing also burst out with his most extreme strength at this stage. Boom! Two golden flames in the void collided frantically, and the shock waves from the collision landed on the ground, causing countless ground vibrations, bursting with dust, and the ground was blown out one by one. And the two people fighting in the air, their movements have turned into phantoms, flashing quickly. Bang 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 bang. A series of dull and thunderous voices came out, and even the sky was already covered with dark clouds, and countless golden lightning flashed in it, and there were even several electric lights that seemed to be pulled by 2,000 huge energy, bombarded down, and landed on two man's head. The two people in the battle did not pay any attention to this huge lightning force and ignored it. Crackling. The lightning struck the two of them fiercely, but it suddenly collapsed, and then merged into the lightning entwined on their bodies, adding a chance to their power. Boom! With a punch, Yang Qing fell to the ground, smashing the ground into a deep pit, and blood again flowed from the corner of his mouth. The power that Sun Wufan burst out at this moment is simply huge and shocking. If Sun Wukong and others saw Sun Wufan at this moment, they would never imagine that the young Sun Wufan would possess such terrifying power. In this short confrontation, Yang Qing actually fell into a disadvantage. It's really interesting. His eyes flickered suddenly, and the aura on Yang Qing's body finally began to be exposed. The golden flames burned on his body, and the aura that was close to the limit actually expanded again. 100% power control has always been a taboo for gods. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. To deal with ordinary powerhouses, I don't need the power to control 100%. But, Sun Gohan, your power surprised me. His eyes suddenly became cold. Yang Qing slowly stood up, and a low voice came out. Power control, 80%, open. Boom. Suddenly, Yang Qing's whole body trembled, and his breath did not change much, but inexplicably, it made people feel that he was even more terrifying at this moment. Hey! There was a long cry from the void, and in the next instant, Yang Qing had already risen from the ground, came to Sun Wufan, and threw a punch. Bang! The aura surging over this punch was not that huge, but it was strangely smashing through Sun Wufan's power barrier, instantly hitting the opponent's face. With a bang, Sun Wufan fell to the ground, blasting a hole in the ground. When it was only an instant, Yang Qing blocked his arms in front of him. A huge force, almost at the moment when he made the defensive action, has already descended on him. This majestic power blasted him thousands of meters away, and the rest of the power fluctuated continuously on his body, shaking every muscle of his. Chapter 845 Potential. The speed and strength of Sun Wuhan have reached an extremely terrifying level. Under the anger, he relies on instinct, and after encountering a heavier blow, he will continue to consciously tap the instinct deep in his body. At this moment, the endless potential was pulled out by him from an unknown corner of his body, and then turned into terrifying energy in his body. This energy was earth-shattering, and even Yangqing was no match for a while. His sight and sensing ability were no longer able to keep up with the speed of Sun Wufan's shot. The terrifying power exploded on him in an instant, causing him to fly out with a boom, like a cannonball. At the same time as this was thrown away, Sun Wufan's body twisted and disappeared again. In just an instant, Yangqing saw two red rays of light, like the bloody pupils of beasts. Those were Sun Wufan's eyes, and he became extremely terrifying when he was angry. Roar! Even Yangqing heard the low roar like a beast. Boom! The violent force shot again, and Yangqing was beaten out again. The gust of wind whistled in his ears, and all the muscles in his body trembled. That terrifying power was completely removed after 3 seconds. Yangqing's expression has become dignified, and Sun Wufan at this moment has almost turned into a god. His physical strength has already surpassed the limit of Xilu's battle. Xilu also doesn't have such a strong power. Against Xilu, Yangqing didn't have to release his power to such an extent. After punching Yangqing again, Sun Wufan seemed to be addicted to his powerful strength. He clenched his fists and let out a roar. Ah! The majestic power surged out, and a whirlwind surrounded Sun Wuhan's body, turning into a golden beam of light and swirling toward the sky. Buzz! The void trembled in front of this powerful force. Wu! Taking a deep breath, Yangqing calmed down her breathing, her dignified eyes fixed on Sun Wufan. The current state is already very dangerous, and this kid is still driven by anger. The potential in his body has long exceeded his limit. If this continues, his body may explode. Eyes narrowed, Yangqing's eyes were fixed on Sun Wufan, and he had already seen the blue veins on the other side's low body, and he was trembling slightly at the moment. Moving, squirming, moving. This is a dangerous signal, and the terrifying power that suddenly increases, Sun Wuhan's body can no longer bear. This battle must be ended ASAP. His eyes narrowed, and Yangqing's whole body suddenly relaxed. But at this moment of relaxation, a more terrifying force, like waking up from a deep sleep, was liberated within Yangqing's body. On his last trip to the demon world, he did not control the blockade of his own power. But after coming out, when he didn't need to do anything, Yangqing also imprisoned his power and released it involuntarily. This is the ancient confinement technique I learned from the Temple of the King of the Realm and the Book Collection Pavilion. It hides the breath and nourishes the spirit on weekdays. Once you need it, you can release the seal and you will gain more powerful power, which is a kind of magic. Of practice. 100% power control, liberation. Om. In the void, twisted. In the next instant, a whirlwind suddenly swept above Yangqing's body, and the golden flames burned, turning into a dazzling beam of light, rushing into the sky. The terrifying energy fluctuations made the thunderclouds in the sky boil even more, and the huge swimmers roared and roared, but they seemed to be afraid. Sun Gohan, you really surprised me. But, that's the end of it, and if you go on, you'll get hurt in the next fight. With cold eyes, Yangqing suddenly moved. Huh! His speed had already broken through the limit at this moment, and even surpassed the limit that Sun Wuhan's vision could keep up with. In an instant, he was behind the opponent, and then he hugged his hands and smashed it towards the back of the opponent's head. Buzz! The void distorted, and Sun Wufan actually sensed the blow at this moment, relying on the instinct of a beast. His red bloody pupils released a dangerous aura, and the violent one did not look like a human being. Bang! This blow slammed into Sun Wufan's forehead, and the latter was just a meal, and then flew out. Roar! You can hear Sun Gohan's injury roar, the manic beast howling, very frightening. Yangqing's figure flashed, and he reappeared on the top of Sun Wufan's head, slashing down with one foot. The speed was so fast that Sun Wuhan still couldn't react, and was slashed to the ground with a kick. Kill! Ling Lai's killing intent rose into the sky, and Sun Wuhan, who was smashed to the ground, rushed into the sky again. The breath of his whole body, in Yang Qing's shocked eyes, was surging again, heading for a higher management level. No. Yang Qing's color suddenly changed, and the current Monkey King, the terrifying aura surrounding his body, was infinitely close to the stage of transforming into Super Saiyan 3. Even, as long as this chapter is not over, click on the next page to continue reading. If you take a step of your mind, Sun Wufan will be able to take this step. Horrible potential. Now, Yang Qing finally understands how Sun Gohan has that huge energy in the future battle of Majin Buu. This bottomless potential, with a little traction, will form a terrifying and incomparable combat power. The battle must be ended quickly. Yang Qing's eyes were solemn. He saw that Sun Wufan's long golden hair was moving without wind under the shock of terrifying aura, and his muscles were constantly expanding and trembling. He will explode. Suddenly closing his eyes, Yang Qing's fists clenched, and he began to transform. Buzz. More surging energy, from Yang Qing's body, rushed into the void and drifted away. Terrible aura fluctuations caused huge deep pits on the ground below, and the sky above them was even more discolored by wind and rain. Even at this moment, the huge energy fluctuations caused the sky of the entire Earth to suddenly turn black. On the opposite side, Sun Wuhan instinctively felt this power, and the instinct of the beast urged him to growl, and he became fearful. Ah! Yang Qing let out a long growl. The next moment, his hair elongated, his forehead bulged, and his expression became indifferent. Chapter 846 continue. Super Saiyan Stage 3. Even if Yang Qing was so clever, he couldn't imagine that Sun Wufan would actually tap his power to the current state during this time of stimulation and excitement. This is really scary. He is very clear about how many hardships and hard training he has gone through before he obtained his current strength. Although compared to the background, it is much stronger than Sun Gohan, Vegeta, any Saiyan. However, the potential of Sun Gohan is terrifying. The terrifying aura on the body is swaying, and the terrifying power that can easily disintegrate the dimensions. At this moment, the void in front of Yang Qing has actually appeared circles of invisible ripples, and there are even more difficult to detect space-time cracks. Appear. Super Saiyan 3 is no longer what should appear in the world. The raging golden flames, accompanied by small thunderbolts, fluctuated violently around Yang Qing. At this moment, Yang Qing looked extremely ruthless and indifferent, and there was a terrifying aura on his body, which made Sun Wufan terrified. However, after 3 seconds, Yang Qing's eyes were even more solemn, and he found it again. The power of Sun Wufan in front of him is about to expand again. How amazing this is. As if it's open, it can move endlessly towards a more management level. Crackling. The lightning on Sun Gohan's body flickered violently, and his long golden hair began to grow, as if he was heading towards the stage of Super Saiyan 3. Have my anger been made more violent by fear? However, that's it for now, Gohan. The faint words came out of Yang Qing's mouth, and in the next second, his body suddenly disappeared and appeared behind Sun Wufan. This time, Sun Wuhan instinctively sensed the danger behind him, but he didn't have time to turn around. A heavy force hit the back of his head severely, but his whole body froze, and his eyes suddenly turned black. The bloody red eyes immediately lost their luster, and the trend that was changing towards Super Saiyan 3 also abruptly ended. Sun Gohan's momentum quickly subsided, and his blonde hair returned to its original state. Yang Qing supported Sun Wufan in his arms, his body trembled and returned to his original state. What a horrible little fellow. With a sigh, he believed that if he didn't stop him and continued to fight, it was possible for Sun Gohan to enter the realm of Super Saiyan 3. That it's hard to say what the consequences of Sun Gohan will be after entering the third stage of the Super Tournament. Different from the previous transformation, the explosive power of Super Saiyan 3 is quite violent, but at the same time, the physical strength and energy consumed every minute and every second are not affordable for ordinary people. Gently placing Sun Wufan on the ground, Yang Qing also sat up cross-legged, closed his eyes and began to cultivate himself. In a battle, his entire body's strength was almost exhausted. After half an hour, Yangqing recovered and opened his eyes. At this moment, Sun Gohan is still sleeping. Compared with Yangqing, the load on Sun Gohan in this battle team is even greater. After a full 4 hours, Sun Wufan woke up with a tired face. Uncle Qing. I'm so tired. The weak Sun Gohan's words seemed weak, but he just got up and sat down, which almost exhausted his full strength, leaving him full of doubts. You went into a frenzy just now and spent too much energy. Yangqing put one hand on Sun Wufan's shoulder, and the golden light flashed, restoring his strength. Hearing Yangqing say this, Sun Wufan was taken aback for a moment, and then he said in a loss, "Did I fail?" "Failed. The power you get out of anger is amazing, but you lose your sanity." Yangqing nodded. Seeing that Sun Wufan was disappointed, Yangqing persuaded again. "But you don't need to be disappointed. The power in your body is very huge. Once you run wild, it will be more difficult to control, and it's only the first time. As long as you try a few more times, you will definitely be able to control this power." After Sun Wufan heard this, he regained his confidence and nodded heavily. "Well, trouble Uncle Qing." Touching Gohan's head, Yangqing smiled and nodded. "Break meeting, let's stop here today. Starting tomorrow, we will continue this practice." Half an hour later, the two rose to the ground. When he took off, Sun Wufan just saw the earth with a radius of 10,000 miles, and he couldn't help but feel astonished. What's going on here? Into the eyes, there are deep pits everywhere, as if countless bombs exploded here, blowing everything into pieces, making him terrified. This is the result of the explosion of the potential deep in your body. Yangqing glanced at Sun Wufan and said deeply. "What?" Sun Wufan opened his hands and said in horror, "Is there such a powerful force in my body?" "Yes, your body's potential is almost endless. Even if it is me, if you want to suppress your power, you have to use all your strength." Yangqing nodded. "So, Gohan, you need to control the power of anger as soon as possible, otherwise, once it goes wild in the future, it will bring disaster to everyone." Sun Wufan's heart trembled. He saw that in a radius of 10,000 miles, almost all life was extinct, and the earth was collapsing. No need to think about it. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. He knew that this power had already surpassed his imagination. If such a force erupts, it will really be a disaster. After a long time, Sun Wufan took a deep breath and said seriously. "I know, I'll ask you later, Uncle Qing. I will definitely help you control this power, Gohan." Yangqing smiled. "With such potential, if you don't cultivate well, it would be a waste." Sun Wufan's potential, it can be said that even if he doesn't practice much, just drawing out this potential can make him an extremely powerful warrior in the universe. Such talent can be said to be quite rare. The two went back together, and after a night of cultivation, they came here again the next day. "Today, continue the practice of yesterday and control your anger," Yangqing said in a low voice. "Stop being driven by anger." Sun Wufan also had a serious face and nodded heavily. But 3 seconds later, the red eyes opened again, and Sun Gohan fell into a frenzy. Yangqing frowned, and directly transformed into a realm that surpassed the power of Sun Wufan at the moment, and shot the latter without hesitation, knocking the latter into a coma. After a while, Sun Gohan woke up again. "Go on." This time, Yangqing is no longer fighting. Everything is to help Sun Wufan practice. Chapter 847 This time. Taking a deep breath, Sun Gohan closed his eyes again. Yangqing stretched out his hand a little, and as the golden light flickered, Sun Wufan's expression began to change drastically again. The practice of controlling anger is on the agenda, which is indeed a very difficult test for Sun Gohan. What is the hardest thing to control in the human body? There is no doubt that it is the 7 emotions and 6 desires. As long as it is a creature, as long as it has thoughts, all kinds of strange thoughts, the fetters will be entangled and entangled for life. There are things or people that are valued, and there will be anger, jealousy, hope, and despair. Feelings like this are completely uncontrollable. Gradually, in Sun Wufan's mind, all kinds of tragic and dreary things happened again. Under Yang Qing's control, these events were all real, making Sun Wuhan uncontrollable. Control your anger. Drive anger. Don't be controlled by anger. Just when Sun Wufan's eyes became more and more red, a majestic shout came from the sky, which shocked his ears. Uncle Qing. Speaking softly, Sun Wufan fell into a strange state. He was still angry, and he could feel the power in his body roaring, boiling, roaring, and neighing, which had already surpassed any step he had achieved before. However, the blood red in his eyes faded, and he became rational. For the first time, he maintained this feeling of anger and let the power in his body run with the anger, but he did not lose his mind. He finally got his anger under control and made it work for him. Woo! Sun Wufan opened his eyes, and his green pupils flashed in different colors, but when the eyeballs turned, it clearly conveyed a characteristic that he was thinking. Success. A smile appeared on Yang Qing's face. After 2 failures, Sun Wufan succeeded, and I have to say that he is indeed the son of Sun Wukong. Of course, this is only the first time. In the future cultivation, there will still be failures, but there is no doubt that this is a good start, isn't it? Uncle Qing, this feeling. Extending his hands, Sun Wufan felt the burning power in his body, his extremely clear mind, and the violent thoughts surging from time to time. His pupils paused indifferently, and said again. It's weird. Experience this feeling carefully, and remember him. It's like you transformed into a Super Saiyan for the first time, but this state is more difficult to control than a Super Saiyan. If you don't pay attention, you will lose your mind. Yang Qing explained softly, guiding Sun Wufan. Just remember, in this state, don't lose your mind and control your anger. Clenching his fist, Sun Gohan began to try to punch, trying to experience the new power. Whoosh whoosh. The sound of fist wind breaking the air quickly came out, and his fist easily broke the sound barrier, reaching a terrifying level. So strong. Surprised, Sun Wufan felt that his power at the moment, even his father would not be his opponent. It turns out that my body really has such power. Some dazed words, he has only vaguely felt it, but he is not sure. Come on, Gohan, come and try to attack me. Yang Qing reached out and moved, signaling Sun Wufan to attack. The latter turned his head, nodded, and launched an attack without hesitation. The two fought another battle, but this time, when Sun Wufan regained his sanity, the power he controlled was obviously not as powerful as when he lost his will. Under Yang Qing's attack, he was easily crushed. The intensity is not enough. Next, try to increase your anger again and draw more potential in you. Yang Qing suggested softly. Sun Wufan nodded, and probably understood what to do. Once again, Sun Wufan didn't need Yang Qing's divine assistance this time. Closing his eyes, after 3 breaths, his face became cold, his body was quickly surrounded by golden aura, and the surging aura began to flow. Suddenly, he opened his eyes, but his body had already transformed into the second stage of the super competition. At the same time, the endless potential began to surge in his body, rushing wildly. Yang Qing watched carefully and nodded lightly. This time, the awakening potential of Sun Wufan's body was much greater than the last time. But along with that, he took a lot more risk. Anger is the hardest to control. It is unimaginable that a person can do stupid things when he is angry. Sun Gohan tried his best to control the surging anger, but at a certain moment, when the power in his body began to collapse recklessly, the fire of his anger also began to burn. Boom! The vast breath erupted again, and Sun Wufan's pupils were once again blood red. Failed. Yang Qing sighed. The power of this outbreak is very powerful, but unfortunately the anger required is also very large. Sun Wufan can't bear it. As soon as he stepped out, Yang Qing also transformed. Then, with a bang, Sun Wukong fell to the ground again. 3 minutes later, when he touched the back of his head, which was aching, Sun Wukong. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Stand up. Failed again. Looking around, Sun Gohan said with a bit of frustration. Go on. In the face of Sun Wukong's distress, Yangqing was only a faint word. For 3 consecutive days, Sun Gohan spent in such training. Among them, Sun Wukong has made a little progress, and he has been able to control his anger at a low level. In a state of anger, he is 30% stronger than usual. A total of 83 failures and 29 successes. Sun Wukong was getting stronger little by little, and before he knew it, he had surpassed his previous self and surpassed his father, when the afternoon of the 3rd day was approaching dusk. Buzz. Suddenly, Sun Wukong opened his eyes. The pupils are incomparably green with indifference, but the mighty power around him is terrifyingly powerful. This breath, even with a slight shock, the void will tremble, and the celestial phenomena will change color. Good. Yangqing finally sighed and strode over. You did it. In my estimation, this is the greatest anger you can control at the moment, and it is also the most powerful force you can exert now. Gohan, your dream, what you've always wanted in your heart, will come true. Hearing Yangqing's words, Sun Wukong's heart trembled, and he silently clenched his fists. Finally done. Dad, this time, let me protect you. Chapter 848 Grow Up. For a long time, Sun Wukong always used the reasons why he was still young and weak, and his father, who could handle everything, to stop himself and become stronger. He doesn't think he can replace his father to save the world and protect other people. He's still young and he doesn't have enough strength. His heart that wants to endure and become stronger is hidden in a corner of his mind, and even he can't find it. But at this moment, when he felt the madly surging power above his fists, deep inside his body, he finally woke up. That trace of a stronger heart, accompanied by anger, rushed out of the closed heart, but it filled his mind in an instant. I can too, I can become stronger, and I can protect you too. Slightly clenched his fists, the air-bursting sound immediately came out. That violent power, just moving at will at this moment, will cause the air to distort and the airflow to move. It is too strong. Such energy that breaks through the limit can destroy everything in Sun Wukong's perception. Thank you, Uncle Qing. Although his eyes were cold, Sun Wukong's eyes looking at Qing were full of respect. It was this person who made himself from being timid, daring to bear, to become brave, drawing out the throbbing in his heart and making himself stronger. Sun Gohan even had a hunch that from this moment on, he would embark on a completely different path than before. Feel the power, remember the limits of your anger, remember the rhythm of the wave of power. After this, you will have the whole world. Gently patted Sun Wukong on the shoulder, Yangqing said with a smile. Sun Wukong nodded and slowly closed his eyes. He began to follow Yangqing's words, using his senses to remember the feeling of anger, and using his body to familiarize himself with this surging power. This will be his most powerful reliance on Xilu in the near future. Gradually, the superfluous leaked power of Sun Wukong began to shrink, and the powerful aura of his body began to diminish. In the end, although the aura surrounding him was still very powerful and frightening, a large part of it had already been controlled. When he opened his eyes again, there was enlightenment in his eyes. He succeeded, recording the feeling of anger this time, and also realizing the fluctuations in this power that need to be controlled. Yangqing silently watched Sun Wukong do all this, and nodded secretly. There is nothing to say about this kid's talent, but there is a problem with his thinking, but in the future, with him, such a thing will not happen. Soon, in the long history of beads, there will be a powerful Sun Gohan who has never existed before. After practicing for a while again, the two returned home. While eating, Yangqing also felt the faint power of Sun Wukong and Faku. The strength of these two guys has also become stronger. As soon as his eyes moved, Yangqing praised in his heart that Sun Wukong was worthy of being a Sun Wukong, and he was improving almost all the time. But he glanced at it again, and by this time he had regained his calm, and the smiling Sun Gohan shook his head. No matter how powerful Sun Wukong is, at this time he is still no match for Sun Wuhan, who draws out the potential in his body. It can be said that under the action of anger at this moment, Sun Wuhan's potential power is enough to kill too many people in this universe. With a blink of an eye, the time for a formal duel with Xilu finally came. On this day, Sun Gohan opened his eyes from his sleep, and his pupils were shining brightly. Everything is today. Uncle Qing's teaching to me, the huge power in my body. Uncle Piccolo, Dad, I'm going to surprise you. Putting on his clothes quietly, Sun Wufan was not in a hurry. Under Yang Qing's training, after gaining powerful strength, his temperament was gradually changing. At this moment, there is actually quite a grandmaster's state of mind that Taishan is pressing on the top and his face does not change. After stepping out of the room, Sun Wufan saw that Sun Wukong, Yang Qing, Faku and others had arrived here. Hi, Gohan, this time has changed a lot. Sun Wukong keenly noticed that the momentum in Gohan's body was a little strange, and asked in doubt. What made him even more curious was that Sun Gohan's state at the moment was no longer the Super Saiyan one that had been maintained, but the original appearance of black hair. Dad. Sun Wufan greeted Sun Wukong with a smile, and when he rolled his eyes, he saw Yang Qing waving at him. After making eye contact, the latter stretched out his fist and extended his thumb to him. Come on. Sun Wufan nodded, his eyes full of confidence. In the past few days of cultivation, he has completely consolidated and mastered the knack of transforming into anger and drawing out his potential. In this battle, he is very confident. After a while, several streams of light descended from the sky and landed on the power of the courtyard in front of Sun Gohan's room. Goku, Gohan, Krillin and others said hello. It was Keelan, Bic, Tianjin Fan, Yamcha, Vegeta, Trunks and others who arrived. Hi everyone. Sun Wukong waved his hand with a smile in his eyes. Different from the father and son, the eyes of Kling and others were full of tension, including Vegeta. There was a trace of worry and fear in their eyes. I see that your father and son are both relaxed. Have you found a way to defeat Xilu? This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Piccolo asked in a condensed voice. Hearing this question, Sun Wukong scratched his head in embarrassment. Although I have been cultivating desperately these days, I will defeat Xilu. I really don't have a clue, I just try my best. Cut. Vegeta made a sound, too lazy to pay attention to Sun Wukong. Compared with the former, he is just the opposite. Sun Wukong does everything in a hurry and is very relaxed, but he keeps his nerves tense, sweating and blood. Then let's go. Xilu must have been impatient to wait. Yang Qing spoke up. His words immediately made everyone present look solemn, and all of them have not forgotten that they have a major task in this trip. Sun Wufan looked at everyone present, and his heart was calm. It was different from the first time Vegeta invaded the Earth and the encounter with Frieza on Namek. At that time, he was frightened, worried, and insecure, and all he wanted was to rely on his father. But at this time, he is full of confidence and is not afraid of any challenges. Suddenly, there was Mingwu in Sun Wufan's eyes. I've grown up and I'm no longer the weak me. Reaching out and shooting, he saw that he gradually grew up and became a strong body. Chapter 849 The decisive battle begins. Suddenly, when he was about to set off, Sun Wufan made a request to Qing. Uncle Qing. He suddenly spoke out and turned everyone's attention to him. Gohan. Yang Qing smiled and looked at Sun Wufan. I want the same clothes as you, okay. He knew that Yang Qing had magical powers, and he had seen it in his practice these days, so he brought it up. Of course, no problem. After being stunned for a while, Yang Qing nodded and said, he is wearing a black martial arts uniform at the moment, but it is somewhat similar to the black Wukong costume in the future, but there is a gold-trimmed, green, on his back. This martial arts uniform is quite simple and elegant, and it is very mysterious. As soon as he pointed out, the golden light flashed, and Sun Wufan's clothes were exactly the same as Yang Qing's. Everyone was amazed when they saw Sun Wufan, who had suddenly changed into a suit. Compared to before, the current Sun Gohan feels confident and calm, as if he has grown up overnight. Coupled with this black martial arts uniform, it made him full of evil spirits. Gohan seems to have grown up. Krillin said blankly. It's a little different. Big said softly. Gohan brother. Trunks' eyes were full of light. In the future, Sun Gohan died in advance for them. This was the greatest regret and grief in his heart. At this moment, seeing the flat smile on Sun Wufan's face and the faint confidence, he seemed to see the future world again, and looked back at him and smiled at Sun Wufan. Thank you, Uncle Qing. Sun Wufan smiled and thanked. The sunshine is generous. This kind of acting style and temperament different from the past once again surprised everyone. On the other hand, Sun Wukong, who has no head and no brain, seems to have not seen it. He is naturally happy with the growth of his son. At the same time, I am also amazed at Yang Qing's mystery. The two have not been together for 10 days in total, but Sun Wufan's change has been huge. Immediately afterwards, everyone flew up and rushed in the direction of Xilu. The powerful Xilu is very arrogant and domineering. In the past 10 days, the huge momentum on his body has not been hidden at all. He is waiting for the challenge of Sun Wukong and others, so as to end this boring battle. On the earth, he is not afraid of anyone except the mysterious guy who came from the future world. Even if it is thousands of miles away, everyone can feel the dazzling aura that is as dazzling as the sun after closing their eyes. That is Xilu. He's there. Sun Wukong opened his eyes. His eyes were sharp. He accelerated, and took the lead in rushing towards where Xilu was. Half an hour later, they saw that in the center of a wasteland, a huge competition platform was cut and stood on the ground. Xilu, on the other hand, was standing on the competition stage with his eyes closed and his arms folded, waiting for the crowd. At a distance of more than 10 miles from the competition platform, a piece of the wreckage of Earth's war weapons lay there, and the army soldiers who had summoned the courage to fight had long since disappeared. Several people fell quickly and stood below the competition platform. At this moment, Xilu finally opened his eyes. You guys are finally here. The voice was cold and flat. Who is he talking about? Is he waiting for us? Cowardly, the Satan people standing in one place trembled, thinking in their hearts. They have not seen the horror of Xilu, but rely on their own judgment to think that Xilu is nothing special. Hey, I kept you waiting, Suru. Sun Wukong greeted with a solemn expression. Others were either silent or swallowed their mouths in water in fear. Is this your confidence to beat me? They don't think so. Xilu looked at Yang Qing, who was standing quietly beside him with an ugly face, and said in a dark voice. Whether it works or not, you'll know if you try it. Yang Qing's face was relaxed, and there was a faint smile on his face. Okay, then I'll see how they beat me. Xilu said angrily. He seemed to think of the fear of being abused that day, with both anger and deep fear in his eyes. Who will come first? Glancing around again, Xilu said coldly. As soon as Sun Wukong touched his hands, he was about to take the stage, but at this moment, one of the Satan Legion immediately jumped up. Xilu's face was cold, and he ignored the people who came to power, still staring coldly at Sun Wukong and the others below. The man felt Xilu's contempt for him, and immediately became angry and attacked Xilu. Xilu didn't dodge or evade, and he didn't even have eyelids. Bang bang bang. A series of voices came. The man hit Xilu, and his face immediately showed a triumphant smile. But at this moment, the muscles on Xilu's body suddenly bulged, and the huge force instantly lifted the man out, and fell heavily on the ground 100 meters away. Sun Wukong, who will come first? Sun Wukong was helpless. The order of his appearance was robbed, and he was about to step forward again, but at this time another member of the Satan Legion came on stage again. This is embarrassing. Sun Wukong scratched his head. He must not interfere in the battle on the martial arts stage. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Spreading his hands, he can only wait for the next time. The second person was still solved by Xilu effortlessly. In the third time, Satan finally came on stage, still 1 second ahead of Sun Wukong, occupying the position of Sun Wukong. You bastard, you can only use tricks. I have seen through all your attacks, let's capture it. As soon as Satan came on stage, he mustered up his courage and shouted loudly. No matter whether he is powerful or not, Yang Qing still supports this kind of courageous behavior. However, Xilu's eyes didn't even float to him, just stared coldly at Sun Wukong below. Damn, dare to underestimate me. Satan was angry, and he saw that the gaze in Saru's eyes was no longer contempt, but pure neglect. Steady, there was no trace of him in Xilu's eyes. Yang Qing watched from the side, only feeling amused and tight, and the smile on his face deepened. When Sun Wufan saw Yang Qing's expression, he felt very strange, and he didn't know why he was smiling. Finally, Satan launched an attack on Sirius. It can be seen that Satan has the courage to come here, and his strength is also very strong in ordinary earth. He can split 8 bricks with his bare hands. In world fighting, he has won the championship and won countless rankings and honors. He is the strongest. At this moment, Satan was full of firepower and ran towards Saru. The grim look on his face, the running legs and legs of Sa Wanzi, and the short-lived 3 seconds later, made the people present feel embarrassed. Chapter 850 Change. Satan finally slammed into the street, and was punched by Saru, and he disappeared without a trace. Is that all right? This farce. Xilu's face was very cold, except for the camera and the host with the microphone, there was no one else below. Sun Wukong shook his head helplessly, and finally jumped onto the competition stage. This time, no one was interfering with them. Kaylin and the others below all took a deep breath and watched the battle on the competition stage solemnly. They know that this decisive battle is very important, and perhaps, the fate of the Earth will be decided from now on. For a while, the field was silent. Everyone was very nervous, secretly clenching their fists. Xilu, you are really strong. It can be said that you are stronger than any opponent I have ever met before. Sun Wukong spoke calmly, withdrew his legs, and assumed an attacking stance. Oh, Sun Wukong, in my eyes, you are also a formidable opponent. With a slight smile in Xilu's eyes, he also assumed a posture similar to that of Sun Wukong. The same movement of the two instantly changed the expressions of everyone present. But the doctor created me just to defeat you and satisfy his ambitions, and I can't keep my hands on you. Xilu said again, with a cold light in his eyes. Yes, his birth not only possessed great power, but also brought all the negative emotions in the hearts of Frieza, Demon King Bick, Vegeta and others into it. Therefore, he was born cold and ruthless, bloody and cruel. Sun Wukong's eyes became more solemn, and the momentum on his body increased a little again. Everyone was even more nervous. They knew that the battle would start at any second, and both eyes were fixed on the competition stage. Then, no more words came out. After about 10 breaths, Sun Wukong took the lead. His speed was extremely fast, his footsteps stared at the ground, and his shadow disappeared in an instant. So fast! Kling and others exclaimed. In the next moment, Sun Wukong appeared behind Xilu and punched out, but what he hit was just an afterimage. The latter appeared behind Sun Wukong at the same time, and also swept out with one foot, but it was also Sun Wukong's remnant. Film. At this moment, the way the two fought was almost exactly the same. This scene made everyone familiar with Sun Wukong's fighting style immediately change color. Sir, this guy, how can it be? Piccolo said in shock. The two began to come and go on the competition stage, constantly staggering back and forth. Their speed is getting faster and faster, and they have gradually reached a state that ordinary people can't see at all. Ah, where are the two contestants? The host looked at the contest stage in confusion. He couldn't see a single figure. He moved the camera to the sky, but there was nothing. But after looking at the strange group of people, they can see that they are shaking, their eyes are constantly rolling, and they seem to be paying attention to something. No, it's too fast, I can't keep up with them. Yamauchi gave up first, his face full of frustration. Unconsciously, Sun Wukong has exceeded his realm too far. I vaguely remember that in the first battle, he was still on a par with Sun Wukong, but it was today. He can only sigh, time flies, white clouds king dogs, Sun Wukong is no longer the Sun Wukong of the year, and his Yamauchi is still the salted fish that he used to be. After another 10 seconds, there was a roar in the sky, like a dull thunder. Kaylin also began to gradually fail to keep up with the speed of the battle between the two, so he had no choice but to give up. These two people are too strong. Sun Wufan glanced at Kaylin, Yamauchi, Tianjin Fan and the others from the corner of his eye, and doubts appeared in their eyes. Can't see clearly. Why in his eyes? He can easily observe the traces of Dad and Xilu. He retracted his gaze and continued to observe Xilu. Dad is fighting with Xilu, this is his best chance to get familiar with Xilu's fighting style in advance. Finally, the two appeared on the stage again. Compared with the flat clothes at the beginning, the two of them are a little messy at the moment, but the light in their eyes is exceptionally brilliant. As expected of Sun Wukong, you have impressed me. But if it's just this power, I'm afraid it's not enough. Xilu laughed out loud, his eyes full of indifference. Everyone's hearts were raised, only the host on the side looked confused. Nani? What? We didn't understand anything. Ah, why did the two suddenly disappear for a while, and Xilu popped out such a pretend 13. But the next moment, they felt the air tremble, and there was a feeling of trembling in their hearts. Buzz. A terrifying breath rushed out of Xilu's body, but in an instant he surpassed Sun Wukong and everyone present. Its terrifying aura, even among the lightning and thunder, lifted the host and others away, and threw them far away. Monkey King, you deserve all my strength. Sirius said coldly, pretending to be 13. So strong. Siruru is too scary. God, this chi, is this the true power of Xilu? Krillin and the others immediately panicked. This chapter is not over, click on the next page to continue reading. Admiration, eyes full of worry. Sun Wufan glanced at everyone in confusion again, not understanding why they felt that Xilu was powerful. Isn't his anger strong enough? And Dad, who's far from doing his best? It's just that at this time, he was not easy to say, and still watched the battle calmly. Once again, the battle between Xilu and Sun Wukong begins. Xilu, who burst into power, was obviously too powerful, and Sun Wukong fell into a disadvantage in an instant, causing everyone to worry and nervous. But within a few seconds, Sun Wukong also broke out, and the two were evenly matched again. The terrifying thunder continued, and the void trembled. From the battle till now, none of the people below can keep up with the speed of the two of them. Even Piccolo's face is ugly. At this time, he could only barely see the actions of the two. At this moment, Piccolo suddenly trembled, and he looked at Son Gohan in disbelief. He saw that Sun Wufan's eyes kept rolling, his face was very calm and he was watching this peak-to-peak decisive battle, and there was no helplessness and panic in his eyes. Does this mean that Gohan can see the battle between the two? How can that be? When did Gohan become so powerful? Being able to keep up with the fighting speed of the two, on the one hand, means that the power of Sun Wuhan has surpassed him. Chapter 851 Admit Defeat. Gohan, how come? Piccolo looked at Son Gohan in shock, his eyes full of disbelief. How long has it been since Gohan's growth has surpassed him? At this moment, Piccolo noticed that a gaze was looking at him, and he couldn't help but turn his eyes to look at that gaze. Is it him? Turning his gaze, Pic saw Yang Cheng, who gave him a slight smile and nodded. His eyes narrowed, Piccolo withdrew his gaze and continued to watch the battle. On the competition stage, the speed of the two was getting faster and faster. By this time, Piccolo could almost only see a shadow flashing past, and then he could see nothing. After more than 10 breaths, there were only bursts of roars in the sky, like muffled thunder, but there was no shadow. Finally, a shadow cut through the sky and fell heavily on the competition stage. The complete competition stage was immediately knocked out by a huge gap. The figure showed its shape, and when everyone looked at it, their pupils shrank. Goku! Someone couldn't help but exclaimed. The person who fell on the ground was Sun Wukong. Boom! There was a tremor in the air, and everyone felt a surging Qigong wave breath. Turtle School Qigong. Looking at Xilu, who showed his figure in the sky, everyone was shocked. How could it be? How could he? Those who are familiar with Sun Wukong can easily distinguish that this trembling aura fluctuation belongs to the Turtle School Qigong wave. The light blue brilliance bloomed, and Xilu's hands were placed on his waist, and the group of brilliance continued to expand, emitting hot energy. Below, Sun Wukong rolled and stood up immediately. His hands were placed on his waist at the same time, and the light blue light also bloomed. Turtle School Qigong wave. At this moment, both of them released the signature skills of this long pearl world. With Turtle School Qigong wave to Turtle School Qigong wave. After 3 breaths, the aura they were brewing had reached the strongest point. At the same moment, both of them pushed their hands from their waists and shouted loudly. Buzz! The terrifying energy fluctuations trembled into the void, producing a trace of ripples, and rolling airwaves spread from all directions, causing everyone to close their eyes. The 2 dazzling rays of light quickly touched in the void, and at a certain point in time, they finally touched each other. Then, boom! A terrifying sound came out, bigger than the dull thunder, and in an instant, a dazzling brilliance erupted. The Qigong waves of the two collided together. Zitsa! Violent electric lights flickered, and both of them shouted loudly. At this moment, the momentum on their bodies reached its peak and was still growing. At the beginning, Xilu's Qigong waves were invincible, and they rushed all the way to the place where Sun Wukong was. The amazing energy fluctuations shocked everyone. If this huge energy really bombarded the Earth, then there is no doubt that the Earth will be destroyed in an instant. This guy, Xilu, didn't even think about this issue at all. Ah! Sun Wukong broke out at this moment. He shouted and was born, and his amazing breath rolled out. The results of his cultivation with Faku during this period of time were finally displayed. The terrifying energy aura surging and rolling, shocked everyone watching the battle. In the sky, Xilu's pupils contracted even more, and his heart jumped abruptly. This astonishing aura was already approaching his peak. Peak time. This guy Kakarot. Vegeta clenched her fists secretly, her face ugly as hell. The outbreak of Sun Wukong was only for a moment, almost in the blink of an eye, and the Turtle School Qigong suddenly expanded, and then quickly pushed towards Xilu. As expected of Sun Wukong, Xilu's figure flickered, and it was too late to resist this wave of attacks, so he had to dodge quickly. Huh! The dazzling light quickly disappeared before everyone's eyes, and disappeared as a light spot in the distant sky. Another flash of effort, Xilu appeared in front of everyone. The blood dripped on the ground, and one of his arms was too late to dodge, and was affected by the Qigong wave and was directly vaporized. Monkey King, you really amaze me that you have such power. Woo! Sun Wukong still maintained the posture of pushing out his hands, breathing a little heavy. The Qigong wave just now was already his ultimate strength. On the opposite side, Xilu's whole body trembled, his arm trembled violently, and then a complete new arm appeared. When everyone saw this scene, their eyes became even more solemn. The powerful Saru is terrifying, but the Saru who can be reborn from a severed limb is even more terrifying. Sun Wukong's eyes became more serious, and he suddenly realized that the breath of the other party had only dropped a little by this time. And myself, it's almost bottoming out. Sure enough, I'm not his opponent yet. His whole body tightened, and he slowly assumed an attacking stance again. This time, he has to use his full strength to try. Just how far is the gap between him and Saru? Xilu also slowly took a stance, and the battle between the two began again. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. A gust of breeze blew, and the figures of the two distorted and disappeared again. This time, the two did not lift off, but only fought on the competition stage. Bang bang bang. A series of collision sounds came out, and everyone who could not see the figures of the two could clearly see that a series of cracks began to appear in the originally complete competition stage due to the duel between the two. After a full 5 minutes, a figure appeared and was beaten and flew out. It's serious. Great, Goku has the upper hand. Krillin exclaimed in surprise. However, Son Gohan's eyes became serious and became a little nervous. He clearly observed that his father's breath had dropped to the lowest point. This means that Sun Wukong's physical strength has bottomed out, and his weak breath and trembling body also means that he himself has reached the limit. Sure enough, the next moment, Xilu jumped from the ground and came to the front of Sun Wukong, and then hit hard, and Sun Wukong flew out. Sun Wukong, who stood up again, was a little shaky, and his eyes were not as bright as before. Seeing that Xilu was ready to attack again, he waved his hand. I admit defeat, I am not your opponent. Immediately afterwards, he directly lifted the Super Saiyan, then changed into the original state, and jumped off the competition stage. After jumping off the competition stage, Sun Wukong smiled embarrassedly at everyone. I'm sorry, I am not his opponent at this time. Damn it. Vegeta gritted his teeth for a while. Even Kakarot was no match for him. Chapter 852 Gohan appears. He was trembling all over. On the one hand, he was afraid of serious power, but on the other hand, he couldn't restrain the instinct of Saiyans and wanted to fight Cyrus again. It's only me. Vegeta clenched her fists and was about to charge. In his opinion, besides Kakarot, he is the most powerful here. Kakarot was defeated, so he should be the one to stand up. This is fine. But the next moment, a figure has already entered the competition stage. When Vegeta saw it clearly, his face was ugly. What is this kid doing? Are you impatient? It was Son Gohan who set foot on the competition stage, and Gohan's attack surprised everyone present. Gohan him. The crowd opened their mouths, and they were about to call him down. At this time, Sun Wukong gave Gohan a deep look. Let him go, if he can't win, then there's no hope for us anymore. His words shocked everyone present. What does it mean? In other words, Monkey King is stronger than Sun Wukong at this time. But how is this possible? Did Sun Wukong just let you die like this? When Xilu saw Sun Wufan, he was also a little stunned, and then he sneered. He didn't think that Son Gohan could do any harm to him. Salu, I will beat you. However, Son Gohan's words were sonorous and powerful, with a serious expression. Such an expression made everyone present feel that this young man was serious, that he really thought so, not just joking. Fun. Xilu's face was startled, and then he smiled. Since you want to die, then I will fulfill you. Off stage, Vegeta quarreled with Sun Wukong. Kakarot, do you want that kid to die? In this case, let me go up. However, in the face of Vegeta like this, Sun Wukong just said something seriously and lightly. Vegeta, you are not Saru's opponent. In an instant, Vegeta's face burst with blue veins, clenched his fists, and his anger went up. You bloody bastard. Watch the game well. At this moment, Yang Qing spoke lightly. His words were calm, but full of power, and Vegeta, who almost fought, immediately fell into peace. I'll just see how capable this kid is. Looking at the competition stage calmly, Yang Qing was full of expectations at this time. Gohan, my training with you is over. However, your growth path has only just begun. Come on, use your full strength and let everyone see your great power. Go ahead, show your own brilliance, and surprise anyone who sees you. He thought silently in his heart, and had great expectations for Sun Wufan. Only he knows the power of the latter. And there is another person who has the same expression as Yang Qing. Gohan, are you okay? At this time, Sun Wukong still had some doubts and worries about his son. In the past few days with Qing, what have you experienced? You can see that you have grown very fast. But, facing Xilu, are you sure? Of course, Sun Wukong didn't really say these words, but said silently in his heart. In the process of growing up, he took on too much, sheltering from the wind and rain for the earth, for his relatives, and for his friends, which is also a powerful driving force for his growth. But this time, the burden will fall on his son. Sun Wukong's worries are natural. While everyone was holding all kinds of thoughts, Sun Gohan on the stage slowly took a stance. The posture of the battle preparation made everyone stunned. What is he doing? He didn't turn into a Super Saiyan. Piccolo growled that he was too worried about Sun Gohan, so he was even more angry. This kid, after watching Wukong fight for so long, how dare he be so careless? Yang Qing, who was on the side, showed a smile at this time. Very good, Gohan, strong self-confidence is the foundation of victory over everything. At this moment, on the martial arts stage, Sun Wufan's mood was calm, and for the first time he realized how heavy his father's courage was. At this moment, he stood here as if he had taken on everything. He finally understood what his father was facing. Strong enemies, and worried friends, elders, and the earth. All of this put a lot of pressure on him. This pressure is so huge that it is hard to breathe. If you can't bear it, you will be crushed to pieces. But if he can bear it, it will become a more powerful driving force, making him stronger. Fortunately, Sun Gohan had already withstood the pressure in just an instant. Then, he became more confident. Although he was still young, facing Xilu, everyone was in a trance and saw from him. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. The appearance of Sun Wukong. This is a kind of Grand Master's demeanor that he is confident that he can defeat any enemy in the face of it. Afterwards, he seemed very calm. In his eyes, this battle, which even Sun Wukong had to concentrate on and deal with nervously, was unusually calm. You're a little different. I'm interested in you. Xilu noticed the change in Sun Wufan's temperament, and his eyes flashed. But I'm not going to show mercy. Prepare to die in my hands. The indifferent words entered Sun Wufan's ears, and the latter smiled calmly and said softly. Come on then. Huh. The battle started instantly, and Xilu's figure disappeared in an instant. Just as Xilu moved, Sun Wufan also took 2 steps forward. Hey! The sound of breaking the air came out, and Xilu's elbow hit the air. Everyone was surprised. They didn't expect the first blow to be avoided by Sun Wufan so easily. Immediately afterwards, Xilu disappeared again, and Sun Wufan took 3 steps back. The fist wind was fierce, wiping Sun Wufan's nose. This punch, he dodged again. Xilu's eyes flickered, and the expression on Sun Gohan's expression became slightly solemn. It's incredible to me, boy. Sun Wufan waved his hand with a grim expression. Xilu, you need to be faster. In a word, Xilu's face became cold again, and his killing intent was awe-inspiring. Under the stage, a relaxed smile appeared on Sun Wukong's face. Gohan, finally grown up. Maybe, there is real hope for this victory. Chapter 853 Crack. The battle was only the beginning, and Sun Gohan's performance was beyond everyone's expectations. Everyone knows how strong and how fast Xilu's power is. Even Vegeta knew very well that even if he turned into a Super Saiyan, it would be difficult for him to escape the burst attack just now. But this kid did it. How can that be? On the competition stage, Xilu stepped forward again, came to Sun Wuhan, and threw a punch. His moves are simple and straightforward, but they don't require much thinking. Because he is strong enough and fast enough. Just relying on speed and strength, the enemy can no longer resist. Where is the routine used? In the face of this punch, Sun Wukong just bent over and easily dodged the punch. He even put his hands on the ground, his feet left the ground, and he kicked Xilu's waist fiercely. Hit. It's just that the power of this blow is a little small, and it does not cause damage to Xilu. After a few tumbling, Sun Gohan flexibly distanced himself from Cyril. The two confronted each other again, but their expressions were a bit serious. I underestimate you, boy. Xilu's voice was heavy, and after several rounds of battles, he recognized the boy in front of him, and there was indeed something special about him. Come on, Saru, just like this, you can't beat me. Sun Gohan hooked his hands, a relaxed smile on his face. Don't be ashamed. Xilu became hot, and the figure flashed again and disappeared from everyone's eyes. But the next moment, when he appeared in front of Sun Gohan, the latter still easily blocked his attack. Immediately afterwards, the two started a quick attack at close range. It can be clearly seen that Xilu's strength and speed are far beyond that of Sun Wukong at the moment. Under the attack of the former, Sun Wukong quickly retreated and could only be forced to block, and could no longer fight back. Is that what you are? Xilu roared loudly, increased his strength, and punched heavily, hitting Sun Wukong's arms again. Chi. The powerful force knocked Sun Gohan back 10 meters before stopping. Glancing at Xilu slightly, Sun Wukong muttered to himself in a low voice. This kind of power is really hard to fight. In that case. He clenched his hands suddenly, his hair instantly turned golden, and his aura became dozens of times stronger than the previous moment. This transformation surprised Xilu, as well as the Monkey King and Vegeta below. He has actually reached this level. Vegeta whispered in disbelief, filling her mind with 3 words impossible. Gohan. Sun Wukong was also a little shocked. Kaylin and the others on the side couldn't understand what was the difference between Sun Wukong's transformation and asked loudly. What happened to Gohan? You are so surprised. Krillin, Gohan is amazing. Trunks said with a look of admiration at this time, and his face relaxed at the same time. This time, maybe, there is a real hope of defeating Xilu. What the hell are you talking about? Krillin and the others were still confused. Generally speaking, the transformation of a Super Saiyan, because the sudden surge of power is very large, more or less at the moment of transformation, there will be a powerful aura bursting out, and even after transformation, these powers are hard to control. Quote. The transformation time will last for a long time, generally it takes 5 to 10 seconds, the first transformation, or if you are not skilled, it will even take 10 seconds to more than 20 seconds. But, Gohan Having said that, Trunks looked at Son Gohan again and was amazed. He did it almost in an instant. It shows that he has completely mastered the power of Super Saiyan 1. Quote. I have only seen the characteristics of this transformation in one person. Inadvertently, Trunks glanced at Yang Cheng. It's impossible, how is it possible? This boy. Vegeta was on the side, still looking unbelievable. It's okay to be overtaken by Kakarot, now, has even his son walked ahead of him. He is a proud Saiyan prince. At this time, the one who is the happiest is naturally Sun Wukong, who can hardly close his mouth with laughter. Wukong, eat this fairy bean quickly and recover. Qilin stuffed a fairy bean into Sun Wukong, who smashed it into pieces, then swallowed it, and his physical strength recovered instantly. Let's continue watching, this time, it's Gohan's stage. Sun Wukong said with a smile. The others all looked at the competition stage with complex expressions. Transformed into a Super Saiyan, Sun Gohan's power has increased dozens of times than before, and this surging breath makes Saru slightly change color. He was keenly aware that Sun Wuhan's power at this stage might have surpassed Sun Wukong. In other words, this little boy actually possesses the power that is closer to himself. How is this possible? Xilu also felt unbelievable in his heart. However, the next moment, Son Gohan was the first to attack. Serious eyes. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Z immediately squinted, instantly judging in his mind the direction of the former's appearance. Front. He punched forward, but missed. At this moment, a yin wind hit the back of the neck. Xilu's face changed, his figure was immediately twisted, and he quickly avoided. Wrong. He actually made a mistake. How is this possible? Sun Wukong attacked again. His speed and strength were still not as good as that of Xilu at this time, but in the routine, he seemed to have seen through Xilu, and every move perfectly restrained the former. Gradually, after the two fought for 3 minutes, Xilu also noticed this with an ugly face. I was seen through by him. Everyone will have their own set of fighting styles, such as from which angle to cut in, what posture to use when defending, and after detecting the enemy's flaws, they will choose to crack or gain momentum, waiting for the opportunity to strike a fatal blow. These are all unique fighting styles. At this moment, Saru is very clear that his fighting style has been completely seen by Sun Wukong. At the same time that Xilu saw this, everyone in the audience also discovered this. Goku, is that you? Krillin said in surprise. Hee. Sun Wukong just smiled, but didn't answer. Uncle Wukong comes on first, fights serious, and lets Gohan observe serious fighting style below. That's why, after Gohan came on stage, he could easily decipher all of Saru's actions. Trunks suddenly realized. Chapter 854 On and off the stage, everyone looked different. Sun Wukong's side was full of smiles and relaxed after being surprised. In this way, Gohan seems to be much more reliable than Goku. The indifferent and calm Grandmaster's demeanor instantly convinced everyone. Gohan, maybe there is a real hope of winning. Krillin said expectantly. On the other hand, looking at Xilu, at this moment, his face was extremely ugly. A mere boy with a hairy head, who actually saw through his routine. What is this? Xilu, you have been seen through by me. Sun Wukong said lightly. In this battle, I will definitely defeat you. With these words again, Xilu's face darkened and became ashen. You group of Saiyans, really love to talk big and beat me. Xilu's eyes turned cold, and he grasped his hand, making a crunching joint sound. Even if you know what I'm going to do, can your attack hurt me? Shaking hands suddenly, a more terrifying aura surged up from Xilu's body, and the violent aura formed an air current at this moment, which actually smashed the competition platform into smashes in an instant. The gust of wind swept through, and the people watching the battle below the stage blocked their hands in shock. Xilu, he hasn't used his full strength yet. Sun Wukong's eyes narrowed, and his face became solemn. This sudden burst of breath was much stronger than when he was fighting. When I was fighting with him, I already felt faintly. Xilu, he still has a huge power hidden, as expected. That Gohan. Everyone was worried. I don't know what will happen to Gohan, but I can only pin my hopes on him. Now, he is the only one who has the most hope of defeating Sirius. Sun Wukong said seriously. On the competition stage, oh no, the competition stage has turned into a pool of gravel under the impact of Xilu's violent airflow. The gust of wind calmed down slowly, and the dust dissipated, revealing Xilu's figure. The battle between us, the small competition stage, is already unbearable. Son Gohan, you surprised me. I can feel that there is a huge power hidden in your body. Let's release it. There is no need to hide. Sirius shouted loudly towards Son Gohan. But on the opposite side, Son Gohan just smiled plainly, then showed his hands and probed. Its contemptuous attitude, full of confidence. Damn. Xilu's face became extremely ugly, and his anger filled his mouth. You are courting death. With a loud shout, Xilu's feet suddenly exploded, and the figure that followed him disappeared. At this moment, his speed exploded, and it was 3 times faster than before, but he appeared in front of Sun Wukong in an instant, and then threw a punch. Sun Wukong blinked, and the opponent's terrifying speed made him not react. Bang! With a dull sound, Sun Wukong was punched out. I said, your current strength is simply not enough to fight against me. Xilu's figure flickered, and he rushed in front of Sun Wukong again, punching violently, and swung towards Sun Wukong fiercely. Sun Wukong raised his arms to fight, and his figure kept retreating under the huge power of Xilu. Die! Xilu shouted loudly, strengthened his strength again, and suddenly punched out. Boom! Sun Wukong was blasted hundreds of meters and slammed into the hill behind him. This time, the atmosphere fell silent, and everyone looked there worriedly. Gohan, it's too careless. Maybe, he has his own plans. Sun Wukong recalled Gohan's calm expression from beginning to end, and said thoughtfully. Click. The stone crumbled, and a figure slowly walked out of it. It was Sun Wukong. Silently wiped the blood from the corners of his mouth. His expression was still indifferent and calm, as if the physical injury did not affect him. Sir, is this your power? The faint re-export made Xilu even more furious in an instant. You are courting death. With a loud roar, Xilu instantly appeared in front of Sun Wukong, and then punched the latter in the face, and a series of dull sounds came from his body. At this moment, Sun Wukong seemed to be unable to fight back under Xilu's attack. He couldn't make an effective resistance and could only be beaten passively. 30 seconds later, Xilu's attack stopped. At this time, Sun Wukong's arms were slightly lowered, his head was lowered, and he seemed to have been seriously injured. It's not as strong as me at all, how dare you be so arrogant? Sirius said coldly. He can feel that the guy in front of him has been seriously injured, and no one can survive his own series of attacks. This power, I really can't use the current power to fight against you. Is the difference a bit big? A low murmur sounded, and the voice instantly shrank Xilu's pupils. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. What? He looked at the opposite side in shock, and saw that Sun Wukong, who should have been severely injured by his heavy punch, slowly raised his head, revealing his severely injured face. But there was no trace of injury on this face. How is this possible? Xilu was shocked and couldn't believe it at all. Compared to Uncle Ching, your strength is still far behind. The low voice sounded, and a dazzling golden light suddenly erupted from Sun Wukong's body, rising straight into the sky, circling endlessly. Crackling. Intensive lightning circled around him, sounding like firecrackers. The violent airflow scurried wildly, forming a huge whirlwind, which rolled up the ground where Sun Gohan was, causing a deep pit with a diameter of about 10 meters. After a full 5 or 6 interest, the fluctuations stopped. But at this time, the aura on Sun Wukong's body changed everyone present. Gohan him. It is. But, how is it possible? Super Saiyan 2. Everyone was stunned when they sensed this explosive force. Even Sun Wukong's face showed a hint of surprise, as if he had not expected it at all. It's very strong, but it's not enough. However, Yang Qing, who had been watching the battle silently at this time, shook his head and said, Master, are you saying that Gohan's strength is not enough to defeat Sirius? When Faku heard this sentence, he couldn't believe it. In his opinion, Son Gohan transformed into Super Saiyan 2, and the energy contained in it is much stronger than Vegeta. However, this power is not enough to defeat Xilu. How can that be? Chapter 855 Xilu's Wisdom. I have fought against Sirius, although that battle was crushed all the way. However, the strongest aura that erupted from him was far beyond this time. Yang Qing squinted slightly, only he knew how strong Xilu's power was. In his opinion, if Dapra, the Lord of the Demon World, is here, he might not be enough to defeat Sirius at the moment. The energy in Xilu who absorbed number 17 and 18 is absolutely beyond everyone's imagination. So strong. Faku said in shock. His eyes could not help but look at Saru in the field. At this time, Xilu also showed a look of shock in his eyes, and there was even a panic expression on his face. It looked as if he was afraid of Sun Gohan. However, from the perspective of Faku, Yang Qing's words are the most accurate. It's just, what happened to Xilu's appearance at this time? Salu, I said, I will definitely defeat you. Sun Wufan stepped out step by step, the momentum on his body rushed into the sky, shaking the void, and the lightning crackled continuously, making him at this moment as majestic as a god. Impossible, how can you be so powerful? Xilu seemed to be completely unbelievable. Nothing is impossible. Sun Wufan replied indifferently, and then stepped out. The figure had already twisted and disappeared. Xilu seemed to be completely unable to see Sun Wufan's actions in front of his eyes, and he was a little flustered. At this moment, Sun Wuhan appeared in front of Xilu, and then punched out directly. This punch, Xilu did not catch. The fist hit Xilu's face fiercely, twisting his neck and bending his entire head. Excellent. Aside, Krillin jumped up happily. However, after a breath, Xilu did not make a painful cry. Sun Wufan's expression changed, and he had a bad premonition. Looking at Xilu who suddenly didn't move in front of him, Sun Wufan realized where the premonition was coming from, and he was about to retreat, but it was too late. A heavy force hit his stomach directly. In just a split second, Sun Wufan bent down and spurted out a mouthful of blood. Only then did Xilu's head slowly lift up. An evil smile appeared on his face, and he twisted his neck, making a crisp sound. You saw through my actions. But what if I don't move? 2 sentences, let the people present, and let Sun Wufan understand what happened to Xilu's strange appearance just now. Your fist is too weak to hit me in the face without feeling at all. Like a mosquito. Xilu's words came out slowly, and then he withdrew his fist and punched it again. Bang! Sun Wufan's body was actually shaken towards the sky by this punch, and then fell to the ground. At this time, his face became a little pale, and there was sweat oozing from his forehead. Why don't I just beat you straight? Because I think it's kind of funny. Let you think that you have enough power to defeat me, and then show you my invincible power to make you fall into despair. Also let them know that I am invincible. Xilu said, glanced at Sun Wukong and others, his eyes were full of indifference and disdain. You are still too young. He kicked out a kick, and directly kicked Sun Gohan to the ground on the side, stirring up dust. Now, is there any hope for you? Xilu turned his attention to Sun Wukong and others. This scene made the faces of the people present look ugly. Damn, Gohan actually fell for his trick. This sly fellow. Piccolo gritted his teeth. Is Gohan okay? He was attacked so hard. Krillin said worriedly. Everyone's eyes were on Gohan, full of concern. Suddenly, everyone's eyes turned to one side again, and Xilu's eyes narrowed slightly. On the ground, Sun Wufan, who was seriously injured, suddenly burst into anger, came to Xilu's side with lightning speed, and then waved his fist. This sudden attack and the terrifying speed made Xilu actually not react. Bang bang bang. In an instant, a series of attacks fell on Xilu's body, causing him to retreat step by step. Great, Gohan is fine. Xilu couldn't be beaten slowly, this wave did a pretty good job. This kid, let me worry in vain. Everyone watched the battle and cheered up again. Sun Wuhan was fine, and he also launched an attack on Xilu. This attack was so violent and so unstoppable. After punching hundreds of punches, Sun Wufan just retreated. At this time, Xilu recovered his strength and raised his head, his face was terrifyingly cold. Sun Gohan, you really surprised me. Xilu raised his head, causing Sun Wuhan's eyes to shrink immediately. On serious. This chapter is not over, click on the next page to continue reading. There was no harm at all. Sun Wufan's violent attack just now couldn't even hurt Sirius. The tactics are good, but your strength is too weak. Suddenly, Xilu disappeared again, rushed in front of Sun Wufan, and punched out. Boom! Sun Wufan was beaten out, and his entire body was unable to stop the trend and was not controlled by the huge power. Boom! A light blue Qigong wave appeared, and Xilu quickly pushed out his hands. Turtle School Qigong Wave. Sun Wufan suddenly stopped his figure, and then pressed his hands towards the front. At this moment, his face became solemn. Xilu's strength is beyond his imagination. After watching his father's battle with him, he thought that Super Saiyan 2 would be enough to solve the battle, but now it seems that it is far from enough. Boom! The Qigong wave hit Sun Wufan heavily, causing him to retreat dozens of meters before it stopped. Ah! With a loud shout, Sun Gohan gathered the chi of his whole body and slammed the turtle Qigong wave in front of him towards the sky. Hey! The powerful Qigong wave was thrown out directly by him. However, Saru's attack was far from over. At this time, Xilu was already standing in the air, and his hands suddenly waved down. Shish! A series of Qigongs were thrown out of his hands, and in just an instant, a terrifying Qigong wave was formed. Sun Wufan's face changed, and his figure moved quickly. His speed became extremely fast at this moment, and he shuttled in the Qigong wave. Beside him, behind him, and in front of him, the sound of explosions kept coming. The scorching flames rushed towards the face, and the shock wave was almost everywhere. But at this moment, Sun Wufan's heart became extremely calm. Chapter 856 _ As if he had eyes on his body, he could see attacks from any direction. With an extremely flexible and fast body, he actually ran in this dense Qigong wave screen. Boom 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 boom. A series of explosions quickly exploded around him, and the sky-high flames covered the entire space, but cleverly did not stain him at all. At this moment, Sun Wuhan's speed has reached the fastest speed, reaching a point that is beyond the reach of ordinary people's naked eyes. The 10-odd breath passed quickly, the dust in the sky dissipated, the flames disappeared, and Sun Wuhan's figure was revealed. At this moment, Piccolo's anxious voice suddenly entered his ears. Gohan, be careful. Sun Gohan turned around abruptly, but it was too late. Your reaction is very slow. Xilu jokingly scorned and threw a punch. Bang! Sun Gohan flew out again, flying straight to the rear. Xilu's knees bent, reaching the top of Sun Gohan's head, and then his elbows suddenly hit. Poof! A mouthful of blood spurted out, and Sun Wufan's face turned pale. At this moment, his figure also slammed into the ground, and the strong airflow even formed a huge crater on the ground. But then, he reacted quickly, and his fists attacked like the wind. Bang 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 bang. The collision sound was like a dull thunder. He was on the ground and quickly duel with Saru, who was standing in the air. The two sides collided with nearly thousands of punches, and just then he breathed a little, and then quickly backed away. Sun Wufan's eyes became dignified, and Xilu's eyes were still very relaxed. The power of Sun Wuhan at this time did not cause any harm to him. Although it was also very powerful, it was still a little bit worse. Even if it is only a trace, but the difference is 1,000 miles away, but it is enough to decide the outcome. You are strong. Taking a deep breath, Sun Gohan said solemnly. Yes, Xilu's power is beyond his imagination. Based on the opponent's battle with his father, he has already speculated that Xilu's combat power is very strong. However, it is still not enough. He is far stronger than he imagined. It seems that I can only use all my strength. He let out a breath, and Sun Gohan's eyes were full of seriousness and seriousness. When Xilu heard this, he was stunned for a moment, and then laughed again. You haven't done your best yet. Haha, it's a little ridiculous. Suddenly, his face became gloomy. Then try it and see if you can beat me. I really don't want to use this new force. Slowly, Sun Wufan started to speak. Because, it's too powerful. Strong enough to kill you easily. This sounds like no one else, and the words are extremely arrogant, so that Xilu's expression is immediately full of anger. This hateful boy is still so arrogant to this day. It seems that the lessons I have taught you are far from enough. His hands clasped, there was a click sound, and Xilu had the intention to kill. Next time I attack, I will kill you. No, serious, this power will allow me to completely destroy you. Sun Wufan said coldly. Then, he just closed his eyes and began to slowly feel the power guided by that anger. Xilu folded his hands and looked at Sun Wufan coldly. He didn't think the opponent's improved strength could defeat him, he just thought he was bluffing. Aside, Kaylin and others were puzzled. Can Gohan be stronger? It's terrifying, this kid is growing up so fast, he actually has new powers, and after listening to Gohan's words, he can kill Xilu directly. Goku, is it because you gave the vitality bomb to Gohan? Sun Wukong was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and said solemnly. No, Gohan didn't practice with me during this time. He is with Ching, and Ching must have taught him some powerful tricks. In a word, everyone's eyes turned to Yang Qing. Yang Qing just looked at the field with a faint smile on her face. Teach Gohan powerful tricks? Huh, unfortunately not. What he did was to guide the potential in Sun Wufan's body. This is just the most obvious and simplest trick. If it were the old world king god, and directly guided by the ritual, Sun Wuhan would be hundreds of times stronger in an instant, and that terrifying power would be even more shocking. He will release his most powerful light. Watch carefully, Gohan will make you gasp in shock. When he spoke lightly, everyone's eyes lit up. Is Sun Gohan really that strong? In the field, Sun Wufan with his eyes closed, the fire of anger in his heart gradually grew stronger and stronger. Control your anger and drive it for yourself. Through these days of training, he has become extremely skilled. Release the anger in his heart and let him grow rapidly to reach his peak. Gradually, the anger reached a terrifying point. When this point is reached, Sun Gohan. This chapter is not over, click on the next page to continue reading. He opened his eyes suddenly, and there was a fierce spark in his eyes. It's now. Boom. An invisible power erupted from Sun Wufan's body, and the violent aura suddenly burst out of his body, and then rushed into the sky. It was as if a sleeping tiger was suddenly awakened and roared, shaking the mountains and forests. At this moment, Sun Wufan's aura suddenly burst out, making the sky a lot gloomier. What's even more terrifying is that the terrifying aura fluctuated, and in just a moment, the ground he was on was directly blasted into a big pit. Crackling. The golden lightning, flickering more intensely and with a more dazzling golden light, rushed out of his body and directly into the sky, merging with the golden lightning in the clouds. The majestic and vast energy aura, with Sun Wuhan as the center point, quickly radiated away in all directions. This amazing fluctuating aura made everyone present grow their mouths, unable to close their mouths for a long time. A smile appeared on Yang Qing's face, and this was what he wanted to see the most. The tyrannical Sun Gohan was born suddenly and saved the world. Is this Gohan's breath? I can't believe that there is such a huge amount of energy in his body. This is terrifying, it's simply too strong. Xilu's anger, in front of him, actually began to become small. This stinky boy, how is it possible to be so strong? Gohan, your power is so strong. Krillin, Trunks, Piccolo, Vegeta and others were all deeply shocked at this moment. Chapter 857 At this moment, the energy of Sun Wuhan's explosion has exceeded everyone's imagination. The flaming golden flames and the flickering lightning made him like a sun, releasing endless rays of light. Its terrifying energy fluctuations caused the surrounding void to vibrate, with ripples appearing. It was also at this moment that Xilu suddenly realized that he was wrong, that he misestimated the ultimate power of Sun Wuhan. In the face of this surging power, his power seemed a little insignificant. This is very close to the power of Super Saiyan 3, even Yongqing has to take it seriously, not to mention Xilu. This guy. Xilu's face was ugly, he also bloomed his own power, and quietly raised it to the maximum limit, but he still couldn't compare with the current Sun Wuhan. So strong. There was already a little fear in his eyes, and Xilu began to fear Sun Wuhan's power. Sir, are you afraid? At this moment, Sun Wufan looked over coldly. His voice made Saru tremble, and then he laughed. Scared? How is that possible? You alone want me to be afraid. However, the lack of stamina in his tone and the flickering of his eyes made everyone present clearly see his true inner thoughts. Ha tilde. With a sneer, Sun Gohan took a step. I said, I will not spare you, I will kill you. Crackling. As Sun Wufan stepped out, the golden lightning around him also flickered violently. And Xilu, shocked by this powerful aura, took a step back. Everyone saw it, and he was already cowardly. You are afraid, Saru, you are afraid of my power. Sun Wufan took another step forward, getting closer and closer to Xilu. He can obviously solve the opponent at a very fast speed, so that Xilu can't react, but he uses such a step-by-step persecution to make Xilu's heart begin to collapse first. Everyone could feel Xilu's nervousness at the moment, and the sweat on his forehead quickly flowed out. Finally, Sun Wuhan stood in front of Xilu, face to face with the latter, less than a foot away. One of them was tall and burly, and the other looked like a teenager. But at this moment, Sun Wufan looked up at Xilu, and people felt a sense of looking down. Xilu felt very humiliated, he was actually despised. But as the other party approached, he just felt that the aura of the young man in front of him was really strong and terrifying, but the aura was shocking, and it actually made his heart start to tremble. It's terrifying. Xilu's heart seemed to be about to collapse. Sun Wufan's expression was indifferent, and his anger made him very calm at the moment, like a cold-blooded and ruthless warrior. Suddenly, a cruel light flashed in Xilu's eyes. Go to hell. With a single wave of his hand, a circular slash appeared from his hand and slashed towards Sun Wufan's neck. Gohan! Krillin screamed in horror. Because he saw that the trick was his Chi Yuan slash. Serious, he can even know his tricks. Although Chi Yuan slash is a trick he invented, it is extremely sharp, and cutting mountains is like playing. Sun Wuhan was so close to Xilu, and he suffered such an attack, it was difficult to avoid. And once hit, the result. Krillin's face turned blue, and the others were also nervous. However, Xilu's face became ugly at the next moment. Chi Yuan Zan threw it away from his palm, but went straight through Sun Wufan's neck. Afterimage. Sirius muttered. His speed was already the limit he could perform, and this sneak attack completely surprised the opponent. However, even so, the other party was still able to escape. Any of your attacks, in front of me, is slower than a snail. Sun Wufan's voice came slowly from behind him. The indifference and killing intent in it made Xilu feel cold all over. No, don't kill me. In a flash, Sun Gohan stood in front of him again. But this time, he didn't give Xilu a chance to sneak attack, but threw a punch. Bang! This punch hit Xilu's stomach, and the latter immediately bent down like a shrimp, spitting out a big mouthful of blood. Cough cough cough. Xilu coughed violently, as if spitting out his stomach and organs. Bang! Sun Gohan threw his fist again, another punch. This punch hit Xilu's chin and lifted the latter directly, causing his jaw to be almost broken. This power, too violent, too strong. The terrifying boxing, speed, and strength have all reached the point where Xilu is unbearable. With just one punch, Saru flew straight towards the sky and ran away. Sun Wufan raised his head and looked at Xilu, who had disappeared. His knees were slightly bent, and the next moment, like a cannonball, he shot up into the sky. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. In the blink of an eye, he had already reached the sky above Xilu, then clasped his hands together, his eyes indifferent. No, don't. Sirius cried out in horror. Bang! Sun Wukong waved his arm indifferently, and slammed it directly into Xilu's face. PFF'd. The blood sprayed, and Xilu's face was directly deformed as if it was hit by a giant hammer, and then slammed into the ground, causing a small earthquake. The ground was torn apart, and Xilu lay on the ground with big characters. His face was completely distorted and deformed. However, the next moment, Sun Wukong suddenly fell to the ground, and his feet stomped on Xilu's stomach. The latter spit out a mouthful of blood in the sky again, and has become extremely weak. Until this time, under Sun Wukong's neat and tidy attacks, Xilu had completely lost his human form, and he had no fighting power at all. Kaylin looked at the situation on the field and was very sluggish. It was so easy to solve the big demon Saru. Looking at this tragic situation in the Xilu field, no one knows how long this guy will not live. However, what frightened them even more was that Sun Gohan had become so powerful. The battle at the beginning is easy to say, but just now, it was clearly crushing. In the face of Xilu, Sun Wukong can crush him perfectly, which is simply unimaginable for them. Is it in a dream? Suddenly, Xilu coughed loudly, and his body began to vibrate violently. No, don't. A terrified voice came from Xilu's mouth, and his mouth suddenly opened and became very large. Chapter 858 Degeneration. Everyone's eyes are looking at Xilu again, serious, for fear that something will happen. Sun Wukong looked at Xilu under his feet indifferently, and stepped on it again. Bang! The ground was torn apart, and Xilu's mouth opened wider. Yuck! The sound of vomiting came out, and the next moment, a figure spit out of Xilu's mouth. Kaylin saw the figure clearly, and immediately called out. Number 18. At this time, Xilu was hit hard by Sun Wukong and even spit out number 18. Yang Qing smiled and watched all this with relish. It seems that although he has made Sun Gohan stronger, the plot result has not changed much. Sun Wukong, who saw this scene, finally had a funny look in his indifferent eyes, and then he stepped on it again. Bang! The ground cracked again, and Xilu was terrified, but there was nothing he could do, and he vomited again. It's number 17. Everyone saw that Xilu actually spit out number 17 again. Looking at each other speechlessly, Kaylin and others felt a little speechless, but they didn't expect that Xilu would be able to spit out the person who swallowed it. At this time, Xilu, who was lying on the ground, began to tremble violently. Trembling, his eyes were full of confusion and fear. He seems to have realized what will happen to his body in the next moment. From low to high, after getting used to everything in a high position, he was beaten back to his original shape again. That kind of pressure is difficult for ordinary people to bear. At this moment, Xilu has a feeling of despair. His body changed greatly, and he once again turned into the ugly appearance he had when he first grew up, and even his strength had shrunk a lot. Salu, he has degenerated. People looked at Xilu and sighed. Originally the mighty Xilu, when it became this way, everyone sighed. However, they will not have superfluous sympathy. This guy is purely a monster. I don't know how many human beings he has killed. He is simply cruel and ruthless, and it is not a pity to die. Do you have any last words? Sun Wukong, who jumped off Xilu's body, suddenly stretched out one palm, saying indifferently. Saru hesitated for a moment, then burst out laughing. I have a last word. That's why you die. Suddenly, Sun Wukong's eyes flickered, and his palm shot out an incomparably dazzling brilliance, and a light blue qigong wave suddenly shot out and directly bombarded Xilu's body. Ah! With a scream, Xilu was directly vaporized in front of Sun Wukong by the qigong wave. This guy, he still wants to blow himself up. Fortunately, Gohan responded in time. Piccolo and the others gave a false alarm, wiping the sweat from their foreheads. A monster like Saru, who knows how powerful his final self-destruction will be. At the very least, it will be easy to blow up the entire Earth. Quietly glanced around, Sun Wukong saw that the enemy had been destroyed by himself, and he didn't know what to do for a while, so he looked back at everyone. His blonde hair came back to normal again. Now, what to do? Asked with some doubts, Sun Gohan restored the boy again. Haha, Gohan, you are so powerful, so powerful. Krillin came over and patted Gohan on the back hard, who touched the back of his head and just smiled. Dad, I'm finally seated, and I can protect you too. In his heart, he said silently. The battle this time made Sun Wukong clearly aware of the power in his body, and it also made him realize that he was not powerless in the face of everything. Surrounded by the admiration of friends and elders, Sun Gohan silently made a decision in his heart. He suddenly pushed the crowd away, and then walked in front of Yang Qing. What's wrong, Gohan? Yang Qing asked with a smile. Uncle Qing, I want to take you as my teacher, can you teach me to become stronger? Sun Gohan bowed respectfully. He knew that he was able to become so powerful and even defeat Xilu because of this mysterious person in front of him. Even his father didn't dare to let him train with a complete burst of strength as he did a few days ago, but the person in front of him could. Yang Qing was stunned for a moment, and then smiled. Have you thought about it? My training is very hard. Sun Gohan nodded excitedly. Yeah. I've made up my mind, I'm going to become stronger. Okay, I'll accept your apprentice. Yang Qing simply agreed and sighed in his heart. In the future, you will not have such good luck. When Sun Gohan fights in the future, he is accumulating information on Zhuang Shengxing to make himself stronger. The people around looked at this scene, and only then did they know why Sun Wukong had changed so much. It turned out that everything was because of this person. Even Sun Wukong ran over embarrassedly, clasped his hands together, and faced Qingdao. Hey, Qing, can you teach me to practice? I feel like I've reached a bottleneck. He has always pursued martial arts, never giving up, becoming stronger is his only thing. This chapter is not over, click on the next page to continue reading. Momentum, this time, will naturally not miss such an opportunity. Of course, but my focus is on Gohan, I can only give you some pointers, and... After a pause, Yang Qing didn't say anything. Also, it won't take long for you to surpass me. This sentence, Yang Qing said silently in his heart. At this time, he suddenly felt a sense of urgency, the terrifying cultivation potential of Sun Gohan, and the Sun Gohan who was about to catch up with him. Their growth is terrifying. Maybe it's time for me to take that step too. Since ancient times, the boundaries between humans and gods have been insurmountable. However, the race of Saiyans has forcibly crossed over. They transformed step by step, and in the end they were able to transform into the state of Super Saiyan. It is such a tyrannical race that has become a god. The fusion of the two great powers also made Yang Qing's advancement path more difficult. Compared with Monkey King, Vegeta turned into Super Blue, and his bottleneck is even more difficult. All along, he has been accumulating for this step. As early as many years ago, red has been awakened in his hair. And there has been no progress for so many years, this is not his talent. He is accumulating and suppressing. The blood of the Saiyan god was forcibly suppressed by him in a certain corner of the depths of the body's cells. Everything is just to make this bloodline truly merge with the identity of the gods. At that time, if he makes another breakthrough, he will become stronger. Chapter 859 Face Again. Once accumulated, once a certain day, Yang Qing's power in the body is advanced, and the kinetic energy that can be generated by the fusion at that moment will be turned upside down. I can't imagine how terrifying that power would be, but Yang Qing always looked forward to it. From the very beginning, his path was different from that of Sun Wukong and others. No matter how powerful they are, they will die after 100 years, but he will not. He took a road to becoming a god, a road that mortals could not walk. This road is destined to be extremely difficult, but he will not give up. Ahead, Kling and others have already focused on how to deal with the 17th and 18th. The final result is indistinguishable from the original. In this time and space, these two androids did not cause much killing or slaughter. Afterwards, everyone left and came to the Temple of Heaven, and with the help of God Long, all the humans who died in the previous battle of Xilu were resurrected. The earth fell into peace again, the earth's super soldiers separated, and began to scatter and practice penance again. Yang Qing and Faku, on the other hand, continued to live near Sun Wufan. Yang Qing instructed Sun Wufan to practice on weekdays, but he did not stop him from studying. In Yang Qing's view, learning knowledge is also a form of enlightenment. Stupid and ignorant people will naturally not become so powerful. The body and trunk are strong, but the knowledge is short, and that is not enough. Even he has completed a process of accumulating knowledge reserves in the Temple of the Realm King. And Sun Wukong also came to Yang Qing in private. In response, Yang Qing waved his hand, and Sun Wukong's body suddenly sank, and his whole body felt like he was being crushed. I have added a weight of 300 tons to your body and limbs. You are familiar with this force during this period of time. After completing this practice, continue to the next process. Yang Qing said softly. Sun Wukong nodded excitedly. He felt the difficulty, which meant that he still had a chance to move forward. Afterwards, Sun Wukong went to practice excitedly. Shaking his head helplessly, Yang Qing didn't know what to do. This kind of weight-bearing cultivation method is suitable for Sun Wukong and others, but it is not necessarily suitable for himself. As a god, he can perfectly control any power. With the help of divine power, let alone 300 tons, even if it is 30,000 tons, he can easily lift it. This kind of pure power cultivation is no longer useful to him. What he needs more is a kind of improvement in realm. Breathing out slowly, Yang Qing closed his eyes and continued to comprehend. There are many secret skills and cultivation methods in the palace of the Realm King Temple, which he is not familiar with. At the moment when the Earth's time and space fell into peace, Trunks from the future had also bid farewell to everyone and returned to the future time and space. However, this time, Trunks, who had just returned to the future, returned home excitedly, but his face changed drastically. There was a figure standing beside Bulma, a young figure. This figure is very attribute, but it makes him tremble all over at the moment. That figure, sensing the approach of Trunks, turned around slowly. The indifferent expression, without the slightest emotion that a human being should have, spoke lightly. Trunks, don't you know me? The person standing beside Bulma was none other than Char. No one could have imagined that Shia would appear on Earth again at this moment. He once went to Hell, reached a place beyond the reach of mortals, and tore apart the barriers of dimensions, and appeared in the universe again. He has been to countless planets in the universe, destroying an unknown number of stars. Everyone thought that a barren place like the Earth would not attract his attention. However, he came back again. Shia, what are you doing? Seeing Shia standing quietly beside Bulma, Trunks was shocked, and immediately shouted angrily. He was worried about Bulma, worried that his mother and mother would be hurt by Shia. Why are you so angry? And so scared? What are you angry about? What are you afraid of? Trunks, long time no see, you've changed a lot. There was a little emotional ups and downs in Shia's tone, but it was still calm. Damn, let go of my mom. Roaring all over, Trunks quickly transformed into a Super Saiyan, and then his limbs swelled, and he transformed into a Super Saiyan stage. Watching Trunks' actions quietly, Char did not change his mood. Leave Boomer's side. With a loud roar, brilliant golden light erupted from Trunks' body, and in just a flash, he came to Shia, and then threw a punch. He cultivated with Vegeta in the past time and space, and he already had power beyond Vegeta, but it was estimated that his father's dignity had never been shown. But at this moment, because of his concern for Boomer, Trunks unleashed all his power. Boom! The violent airflow broke out instantly, and Trunks retreated at a faster speed, knocking down 8 abandoned buildings in a row. Looking at Shia at this time, her hair has turned golden and her pupils are green, and she has also transformed into a Super Saiyan. Trunks! Boomer shouted. In the blink of an eye, Trunks charged back again, tightly protecting Boomer behind him. His eyes were full of shock. In the past practice, he has been very difficult. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. He also thinks that he has grown up, not the weak self he used to be. But when facing Shaya, she is so powerless. I just want my aunt to make another time machine for me. Charya gave a rare explanation, her expression still cold. A time machine. Trunks narrowed his pupils and glanced at Boomer, who nodded. What the hell are you going to do? I have been to the celestial realm, but to my disappointment there is no power to go back to the past. Shia spoke lightly, but the news revealed in it shocked the two of Trunks. Even the Realm King has no way to go back to the past time and space. But I have to find him and beat him. I also studied Boomer's production map, but I was disappointed that although I understood everything, I couldn't travel through time or create a medium to take me to the past. Although he said that he was disappointed, there was not a trace of human expression in his expression. This guy has long been out of the low-level emotional category of human beings, as if he is a real god. Trunks and Bulma listened to each other's calm narration, only to feel a chill in their hearts. Chapter 860 Babidi. At this moment, Shaya's performance was like that of an aloof spirit. There was no change in the light in his eyes, and it was as calm and terrifying as a pool of stagnant water. The eyes that looked at Trunks and Boomer didn't look like they were looking at a human being. No feelings. Him. Trunks felt a chill in his heart, only fear. A guy who is a human, has he abandoned all his emotional changes? Anger, sadness, disappointment, Shia is gone. What the hell are you going to do? He asked loudly. As I said, I just want to find him and I will do whatever it takes to do that. Shaya's voice was still calm, but the two of them trembled in their hearts, and they both knew that the person in front of them was serious. The time machine can't be built again. Boomer shook his head and sighed. You can't go back in time either. Char's eyes rolled and looked at Trunks. He's back, and you don't need to make another one. Trunks was tensed all over by Char's sight. It's useless, the time machine's fuel has run out, and it's hard to find it on Earth. Bulma spoke again. Char didn't respond, just stared at Trunks silently. The latter was helpless, and could only open the universal capsule. After a burst of smoke, a time machine appeared in front of them. Silently walking to the front of the time machine, Shia glanced at it, and knew everything about the time machine as Shang. He knew that Boomer was right. It is difficult to build a time machine, even he can't do it, and the fuel of this time machine has indeed been used up as Boomer said. Frowning slightly, Shia seemed to be distressed. Can't we just wait for him to come back? After glancing at Trunks and Boomer again, the latter figure distorted and disappeared in front of them. Seeing Shia disappear, Trunks Boomer let out a heavy sigh of relief and visibly relaxed. How strong is this guy? At this moment, such an idea suddenly appeared in Trunks' mind. He compared Yang Cheng, but found that no matter what, he couldn't see clearly which of these two mysterious guys was stronger. Putting away the time machine, Trunks' eyes slowly condensed. He looked up and looked at the sky in the distance. Now, it's time to deal with those two guys. He has not forgotten the original intention of returning to the past. At this moment, he has become stronger and has enough power to kill the two murderers who destroyed everything. Mom, wait for me to come back. Bulma looked at the golden light on Trunks' body at this time, and nodded with a smile on her face. She knew exactly what Trunks was going to do, and she also believed that this child would definitely be able to accomplish it. After that, there is no difference from the original. The mighty Trunks easily solved number 17 and 18, and even found the hidden Sirius. At this time, Sirius, far from being as powerful as the complete body of the past time and space, was also killed by Trunks. Since then, the future time and space has finally returned to peace. On the 17th and 18th, the death of Xilu made all the horrors in the past disappear. People start to work hard and fight for a new life. At the same time, Shia was standing on a desolate planet, seemingly in a daze. Beside him, a gentle woman leaned on her quietly, silently saying nothing. Is there really no way to go back to the past? Muttering, Shaya's expression seemed to have a disappointed expression. The gentle woman knew Shaya very well and knew that Shaya was very depressed at this time. She gritted her teeth and hesitated for a while before speaking in a low voice. When I was in the underworld, I faintly heard someone say that the realm king god seems to be able to reverse time and space. Shaya was startled, and suddenly looked up at the woman. The realm king god. When he was in the heavenly realm, he had never heard the name of the realm god. He thought that the old man was already the highest deity, but is there still a higher one? Well, the king of god is the supreme god, the god who rules the entire universe, but he belongs to the legendary character, the general god, and there is no possibility of even hearing about him. He has the ability to reverse time and space. The woman said seriously. Shaya couldn't help but glance at the woman. How do you know such a secret? After hesitating for a while, the woman sighed and said. My ancestors once followed an evil archmage, his name is Babidi, who once left a secret about the Kaiwang god. Babidi. Shaya's eyebrows raised. However, he ignored the magician and asked directly. Where is the king god? I don't know about this either. The woman shook her head. Perhaps, Barbadi knows. Shaya slowly raised his head, the top of his head was a splendid Milky Way, and his eyes were calm and deep. Imagine Barbadi's breath in my head and I'm going to find him. The indifferent voice came, and after the woman was stunned, she closed her eyes and began to imagine the Babidi breath left by her ancestors. This chapter is not over, click on the next page to continue reading. At the same moment, bright lights appeared in Shaya's mind. Watching these lights calmly, judging the breath above these lights, Sha went all the way up. Finally, in a remote corner, he found a slightly dim light. It's not right to say it's dim, there is a dark atmosphere around the light, and it seems to be swallowing the light. Is that him? In a low voice, Shaya's figure and the woman disappeared here in a twisted manner. In a dark place, Babidi is studying new magic. Hey, it's not far away. When I research more powerful magic and pick out the strongest warrior in the universe, as long as I go to Earth, I can release Majin Buu. When the time comes, Realm King God, you will surely die. In the entire universe, I, Babidi, call the shots. Suddenly, a breeze flickered, and the faint light in front of Babidi suddenly became darker. Who is it? A sharp voice came out, and Babidi asked sharply. Beside him, Dapra immediately stood up and stood in front of him. Are you Babidi? Charya ignored the burly Dapra and asked in a cold voice. The gloomy and evil aura on his body, and even more so the two of them, actually caused the two of them to shudder in fear. I'm Babidi, what are you guys? How did you get here? Shaya looked at Babidi carefully, and then said indifferently. It looks ugly.